This is the Franklin County Fiscal Court, September 15th, 2020 work session. We welcome everybody. So we're going to be led first thing tonight in prayer by Dr. Phil Hill from the First United Methodist Church. And we're honored that Dr. Hill is here. It's been a while since we've had a prayer. So make this an exceptional prayer to kind of make up all of that time. Dr. Hill, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Let us pray. Holy and merciful God, we approach you this evening with gratitude in our hearts for the creation of this beautiful day. And we give thanks for the freedom to care for the business of our great community. We call upon you, O Lord, to provide our county's leaders with the gift of your divine wisdom and insight. Provide in and through them a vision to govern in the light of faith. We pray, O God, that you would forgive us when we do not follow your will, when we have broken your laws, when we have not loved our neighbors, and we've not heard the cry of our fellow citizens. So set us straight on your path of hope and purpose for this great community. Bless now Judge Executive Wells and our magistrates, our first responders, and all the employees of Franklin County, and grant us the strength to persistently seek the things that endure and to grow ever richer in that love which is the life of all people. It's through our holy Creator we pray. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. And you are those people that come down to the fiscal court building. Our great neighbor is the United Methodist Church right in our backyard, and we love the bells that come out in the morning that are played by your church, the music that's played over your bells. So thank you so much for making our community better and blessing us today. With that being said, let's move to the next item on the agenda. As part of our work session today, we're going to have several people come in and talk. And let's start with Jeff Hancock and give us an election update. And I know we're all excited to hear about it. County Clerk Hancock. Mr. Hancock, welcome.
Thank you, Judge Wells, and to the magistrates. It's good to see everybody today. In your packet, I think you've seen the handout that has the map that I've used for magisterial districts, where I've broken it out and put an election headquarters in every magisterial district. I felt like this was the best use of our money. It was the best use of spreading out, making sure that we could be safe, but also offer all the options for people to vote in Franklin County. A couple of dates that I don't know that you know yet or not. October the 5th is the last day to register to vote. If you're doing any voter drives with your parties or anyone else, I suggest you do those sooner than later. I would suggest you go to the govoteky.com to register any voters that you need to vote, especially your high school voters or any younger people that haven't voted yet. I suggest that is the best way for us to get the information and make sure it's clear and it's correct. It's govoteky.com. October the 9th is the last day to order an absentee ballot online. Right now we have 6,600 ordered in Franklin County. We have not been able to fill any of the ballots at this point. The reason we haven't been able to fill the ballots at this point. Okay, all right. You threw me off a little bit there. It's on my computer now. We don't have any of the supplies that we need from the State Board of Elections yet. We are still waiting on labels. We're hoping to get labels tomorrow so we can start filling ballots and sending them out. October the 13th is the first day for early voting. That's the in-person early voting that I think a lot of people are interested in this time. We will be open every day from 8:30 to 4, Monday through Friday, October the 13th through November the 2nd, and every Saturday from 8 to noon. This is the most options ever offered to Franklin County citizens to vote. This is the most procedure. We're following what we did in the primary, but we're giving you more days in the general. I feel like it's a great plan. We're following the state guidelines at this point, but we stepping out and putting one in every magisterial district. It's something that they're not seeing across the state. You're seeing some counties that are still doing 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 mega centers. We're actually going to have 7 places that you can vote on election day. And if you want me to read them off to you, or if you have any questions on the map, I'll be glad to answer. I feel good about our program. I'm expecting approximately 10,000 mail ballots to be sent out from Franklin County. I'm expecting approximately 10,000 walk-in early absentee votes and approximately 7,000 on election day. But we have gotten ourselves situated where we can handle, and being depending on how many ballots we see of people that early vote, we could handle as many as 14 to 16,000 on in-person election day. So I feel really good about our program. I feel like we put a lot of thought into it. And we're really, what we're waiting for right now is the state to send us all the envelopes, get us all our mailing labels. We have our ballots at this point, so we're ready to start getting them out there. As you know, COVID is a concern with everybody. Going all the way back to Jeremy and his staff are building us sneeze shields to put in front of everyone. So we have a touchless election system again. It's going to go out in all 6-year precincts. I feel really good about the situation. Everybody's helped. All the election workers that are working seasonally be coming in to vote ballots, send them out, mail them out, or anyone that is actually going to work. The early voting will be getting a COVID test before they voted. Judy Mattingly is who's helped me with this. So she is allowing me to test every election poll worker except for election day poll workers. She's allowing me to test them all the day that they come into work and do a rapid test. This will keep us from exposing the employees and anyone else that's already in there to COVID. Between her and Tommy Russell, they've really helped me out in the last week. They've helped us get the doors back open. They've helped us all the way along the way, and I can't say enough good things about them. I'll be glad to answer anything you have on any questions you have. I think the one question that you probably have is, what's the cost of this look like? I did some general math with the election officers, with the Saturdays, with election day, with the ballot packeting, the phone calls, the county board pay, advertising, PPE costs. This does not have ballot cost in it. This is your cost of approximately $52,000. With that, you're going to be receiving back approximately $14,700 from the State Board of Elections. So I feel pretty good that we still will stay well under the cost of $70,000 that you have budgeted in there.
Good.
Any questions for Mr. Hancock? No questions? Squire Tracy.
Thanks, Judge. Jeff, thank you so much for participating in tonight's meeting and updating all of us on the upcoming election process. Just for clarification, I know we all have a precinct per se in the magisterial districts, but if someone lives in Schweitzer, which is District 4, and Franklin County High School in District 3 is closer for them, just for clarification again, it would be okay for them to go and vote at the high school?
Scotty, I'm glad you asked the question. It's a great question. And the answer is yes. But I need all voters to understand something on this. I will guarantee you can vote at any location. I can't guarantee, because of the cost of it, that you will have a paper ballot option at every location. But every voter in Franklin County can vote at any of the 7 locations. If they want to guarantee their paper ballot, they have to go to their magisterial district or the election headquarters. That's the only way they can guarantee a paper ballot. Otherwise, regardless, they can go anywhere in the county and they can vote. They're going to have to vote on a machine. If they're Squire Tracy, if they decide to come to your district instead of going over to Squire Muller's district, that's completely fine. But they may have to vote on electronic if I don't have that ballot on hand.
And Jeff, that's because you only have a certain number of ballots at each precinct. Is that correct?
Right. And we've got 14 different ballot faces this time. Part of putting them in your magisterial districts was to ease down the complication for the election workers on how many ballots they had to handle and cover. So by going to each individual, by going with the magisterial districts, my election workers will only have to carry, the most they'll have to carry, except for the election headquarters, will be 5 sets of ballots at each particular precinct.
Thank you, Jeff.
Jeff, I have a question. As we all know, read, watch TV, we hear about the post office, we hear about the concerns about mail-in ballots. We know that the election day is, I guess it's on the 2nd, right? Or the 3rd?
Into the 3rd.
Okay. So if you have a mail-in ballot, when would you recommend that you mail that? How many days prior to the 3rd, if they want to make sure it's there by the 3rd to be counted? How many days prior to would you recommend that somebody mail their ballot in by?
Judge, I would recommend as soon as possible. As soon as you get that ballot and you're comfortable voting it, I suggest you to vote the ballot and get it back in the mail. Now, I will tell you this, I have a lot of confidence in Nick Sloan in the Franklin County Post Office. They've done a great job during the primary. He's already checking on us. He's already coming in and checking on the systems. He's making sure that we have everything we need to get them to him. He's making sure we got everything we need to get them back from him. I have a lot of faith in the Franklin County Post Office, and I have a ton of faith in our postmaster. Nick Sloan is going to do a great job.
So you're recommending that no one procrastinate, that they get it in as soon as they get it? Mail it back in.
Absolutely.
Very good. Okay. And I've got to say this, and I'm sorry that I have to say this, that please address the issue about someone has said that's very prominent that if you mail one in, you're to go and check on it, that is not, do not do that. As you know what I'm talking about, that they don't trust the mail-in ballots, and that they're saying that to make sure that your vote counted, that you're supposed to go to your polls and check in that your vote has been counted. So please say something to that effect, that is not appropriate and is against the law.
You can electronically follow your ballot from the day you order it to the day it gets to you to the day it gets back to me. You can do that electronically on govoteky.com. That's a very, very good system. You can register to vote, you can order a ballot, you can follow your ballot, the whole 9 yards. But it will do you no good. And it is, for anyone listening out there, it is a felony to vote 2 ballots in the state of Kentucky. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. I'm sure Rick Sparks will back me on that, because we're going to have to take those to the grand jury, and someone will get prosecuted over that. Do not do that. Don't think it's cute. Don't think it's a good idea. It's a terrible idea. It is a felony. We have a lot of fail safes in place. Remember, the mail-in ballots start and stop before the walk-in ballots start. So anybody that's ordered a mail-in ballot won't even have the option of walking in and voting until after October the 28th. They put that fail-safe back in. So they're giving them all that time to get it delivered. And then after October the 28th, they can sign an affidavit saying they never got the ballot. They can cancel it and they can come in and vote. But do not vote 2 ballots. It's against the law. Don't try to. It's just a terrible idea.
Thank you, Jeff, for that statement. I appreciate it. Thank you. Squire Sebastian?
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Clerk, I wanted to check with you to see if we had all the staff that are going to be needed to staff all the locations and to handle the ballots already on board, or is that onboarding process going to be going on through the end of September? Thank you.
Right now, Squire Sebastian, we're completely uploaded and ready to go. That changed today again. I had one of the gentlemen that was coming in to help do ballot prep and put ballots in envelopes. He had to cancel today. This virus is making this entire process very fluid. I'm having to change what I do on an everyday basis. I'm having to change the people I'm talking to. I'm having to change how I handle people. I want you to, anyone that thinks they're going to need a ballot or has a health issue, please have them order it. Please don't have them wait. Have them order it now. Let's get those ballots out as quick as possible let's not mess with this whole virus and wait until the last day and then can't get the ballot. So everything, and I kind of going off on a tangent, but this is a very fluid situation that we change on an everyday basis, trying to make sure. We do have quite a few backups right now, Squire Sebastian. Matter of fact, I believe you're working your Collins Lane precinct. Is that correct?
I can. Happy
I
to
think
do it.
I think we've got you signed up to work. So
Looking
be-
forward to it. Done it before, looking forward to it again.
we appreciate that. Thank you.
Judge, this Rick, can I ask Jeff whether or not they're still going to have available the drop boxes at the clerk's office?
Absolutely. We have a drop box at both 317 West 2nd, which is the election headquarters, and 315 West Main, which is the clerk's office.
Thank you. That's the way I voted last for the primary, and it worked out wonderful.
Absolutely. And we're glad to give that service.
Good question. Squire Moore?
Jeff, you mentioned October 28th date on mail-ins, but your paper says if they're postmarked November 3rd, they'll still be counted until the 6th.
That's exactly.
Clarify that for me, please.
Yeah, that's two different forms. So a person for this situation, Squire Moore, they go in and order a ballot online and they don't receive it. Something happens. They just don't receive it. They can't come in and vote in person until October the 28th. They can't cancel that ballot until October the 28th. On October the 28th, they can say, I never got my ballot. Therefore, let me vote in person and we'll allow it to happen.
Okay.
Anybody that's ordered a ballot at this point has to live through that ballot. What happened last time is you had multiple thousands of people across Kentucky canceling ballots and wanting to vote in person. So they've taken that process away all the way to October the 28th.
Okay. Thank you.
Confusion.
Anybody else? Nobody? Squire Booth?
I just wanted Jeff to know I applied to be a precinct worker if needed in my precinct. So I filled out something.
Thank you, Squire Booth. We appreciate that.
Okay.
Squire Moore?
Jeff, I got an email last Thursday about your office shutting down and never got a follow-up. Could you follow that up for me?
I'd be glad to. We had a COVID case in the office. It had been separated out over 7 days, and then we had a second one at the 5th day. We didn't know about the one with the 7 days because it was over the holiday weekend and then a separation. The second one, when I found out about the first one, I had the entire office go test. After we tested, we found the second one. We then had to shut down because of contact tracing. We had to make sure that we could go back 5 days later. And once again, Tommy Russell and
Judy Mattingly?
Judy Mattingly helped us tremendously with this. They allowed us to come in and bring the entire office in. We tested. We all got negative tests today and were able to open back up after a 5-day tracing contact. We were able to open back up at noon today. And thank God, I've said this earlier, thank God we had the option to use Tommy Russell and Judy Mattingly. If not, I don't know where we'd be. I don't know how I got the doors back open. Judy's also allowing me to test. I don't know if you heard this, but I get to test every precinct worker before they start the morning that they're starting. So I can get a negative test right when they start.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, anybody else? Just for informational sake, Jeff, I'll go ahead and do this for you. The Election Day precincts are as follows. District 1, Collins Lane Elementary School. District 2, Hearn Elementary School. District 3, Franklin County High School. District 4, Peaks Mill Elementary. District 5, Western Hills High School. District 6, West Ridge Elementary School. Jeff, so in other words, all the precincts on Election Day will be at one of the schools in their area. And Election Day is November the 3rd to vote in person. If there are no other questions, Jeff Hancock, you have been magnificent, and your office always makes us so proud in Franklin County for what you do in making sure that voting is open to everybody, and that we lead the state virtually every time we vote in number of people that gets out and votes. Thank you, Jeff, and your staff too.
Thank you, Judge. You guys have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Good meeting.
All right. That's one. Let's go to the other. And Jeff brought up Judy Mattingly several times, so I'm going to bring Judy up now too. Judy, first, as you come to present your tax rate, we're going to also just say thank you, Judy, as you come on. Andrew, will you let Judy Mattingly in?
Yes, sir, Judge. She's coming in right now.
Good evening, everyone.
Oh, there she is. Hi, Judy.
Hi, Judy.
Hello. I hope everyone is doing well and staying safe during COVID. And I think you've got us on the agenda today for 2 items. Everyone should have received their little packet here with our budget information in it. The first page is just a copy of our tax resolution, where we're not asking to increase those taxes at all. We're asking to keep it at the same 7.25 rate. And then we're always a little bit more complicated maybe than some of your others, because you're going to see 2 budgets in here. On the next page, page 3 is going to, and it looks like Andrew is going to start sharing it. So I'll let him scroll. The next page he'll get to will be the tax resolution that I just referenced at the 7.25 rate. And then what you're seeing now is our Board of Health or taxing district budget. So you can see there how much we anticipate to bring in at that 7.25 rate, that the vast majority of that are transfers to the health department and the amount of that 1.9 million. And at the very end of this, you can see that we're doing much better financially than we have been the past several years, but we are definitely still worried and scared in 2021 that we could still be facing our increased pension costs or increased rate there for the employers. The last 2 years, I think most of you know that the legislature has given us a reprieve, and we've stayed at the 49.47 rate, but we are, ready to battle that again this year. And then we're also looking at making renovations to our building on the east-west connector, the public health center. And we had already actually gone through and selected a contractor, but due to COVID and that building being used as a testing site, we're going to have to wait on those renovations until after the pandemic has ended. And then there's just one more or a couple more pages on here for you. The next page that Andrew's going to scroll to is the actual health department budget. So you can see under there are different sources of revenue. Our second largest source being that local tax appropriation that you saw on the Board of Health budget, with our very largest source being our service fees there that we have estimated at 2.5 million, a little bit more, but we are worried about those estimates this year because, like most of us, our clinic numbers are down, our service numbers are down, where people are staying at home and not coming out. Again, you can see in the fringe benefits at the bottom, when Andrew scrolls down just a little bit more, that's where our retirement rate comes into play. And so you can see our retirement expenses there at a little over 1.8 million, which is at that 49.47 rate. And then on the very next page, you'll see a breakdown of the surplus, because that $415,000 surplus is certainly not, unrestricted funds or local tax dollars. Much of that is state or federal money that will just be restricted to that program if it's not used. We do have a little bit of surplus in there, you can see, that is the local tax dollars. And then other than that, that's what we prepared for tonight. I do have a COVID update. I know everybody's always interested in that. As of close of business today, we were at 570 cases. And that meant that 77 of those were still active in our community. And those 77 active cases are pretty well split between the community and school cases. So out of those 77 active, 40 are community members, and the other 37 are all associated with the school system, whether it's one of our school systems here in Frankfort, Franklin County, or perhaps a teacher that lives in Frankfort that might teach in Lexington or Henry or Shelby County. But any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Squire Sebastian?
Thank you, Judge. And Ms. Mattingly, thank you for joining us tonight. I know you had shared that the proposed rate remains the same as was held in 2020 at 7.25 per hundred. What was the rate in and you may not have these figures, but you might be able to share them at a later date if you do. Maybe going back to 2019, 2018, 2017. Just wanted to see how that varied over time.
Oh, definitely. I've actually got the whole history here in front of me, and it's very quick with our tax history. Our taxing district was formed in 2000 at a rate of 4. And then in FY14, it was increased from 4 to 5.75. And at that time, it was also due to pension increases. And then in FY19, when we started hearing about the 83% and then the 93% pension rate, it was increased from the 5.75 to the 7.25.
All right, thank you.
No, thank you all.
I also had a question. You had indicated that some renovations were going to be occurring at the Public Health Center. What type of things? Is it additional office space that's required? Is it storage for equipment? Is it just upgrading maybe some of the infrastructure within the facility, like HVAC, that kind of thing? Or, how broad sweeping is it going to be?
It's a little bit of both of or a little bit of two of those things. The most number one thing is just updating. Anyone that's been in our public health center, and prior to COVID, it's always been open for neighborhood groups to use and churches to use. If you've been in there, you've noticed that it's very dated. The carpet is very stained. So that was the major impetus, but we are needing some additional office spaces also. And we are needing some additional closed office spaces. Our Board of Health meets in that room. And again, for anyone that's been in there, it's just a partition wall. And so we're really wanting to make that a real wall with closed doors for things like closed sessions that might have to occur. And so those are the primary reasons for it.
Okay.
You aren't needing anything like substantial, like HVAC or any of those kind of things, right? Is that right?
The HVAC does need to be updated. Now, as far as, water heaters or anything else, no, but we've already had, that building has 6 separate HVAC units in it. And so we've already had to replace one of those. And so, yes, as part of the renovations, we did want to go ahead and get the others replaced too. You'll see in our budget that we have $16,500 put in there for building maintenance, and that much, if not more, has been used every year the past several years because of things failing on us. And of course, some of that building upgrade also goes for our clinic building on Glens Creek Road, but off of East Main here, that's actually owned by the Fiscal Court, but we maintain it. It was built in 96, I believe, and it's already having some major issues with things like elevators that are very expensive to repair.
Thank you.
No, thank you all.
Squire Tracy?
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Judy, for being able to be with us tonight. Just a quick question. You mentioned that the last tax increase was approved because of the anticipated increases in retirement cost. Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned, the state officials spared public health agencies of an increase. I guess my question is that additional tax revenue that's being brought in, is it being set aside for future retirement cost?
And what's not being used right now, yes, we're not even taking from the board what we don't need. So we're leaving that in the taxing district account for those exact anticipated costs if they do occur in 2021 or later. And then also for those building renovations is where they're being left, is with the board. So the health department's not even drawing it down until we need it. I hope that answered it.
It did. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Judy, thank you very much. And I don't know, you were in the waiting room, and I think you probably, did you get to hear what Jeff Hancock?
I did. Yes. Thank you so much, Mr.
Right.
Hancock. We are happy to help.
Good. Well, you've been so helpful, and we are so blessed to have you as a leader of our health department, and all your staff have just been magnificent during this crazy time. And thank you for what your leadership.
Oh, thank you all. We cannot say it enough. We couldn't do it without you. The thanks go both ways. We have to all be in this fight together.
Thank you, Judy. Appreciate it.
Thank
Okay,
Judge,
that's,
I'm so sorry, but should I stay in the meeting for the next agenda item or have we covered it?
She's good. She's talking about the vote on the resolution.
are you talking about for the vote?
I noticed that we were listed under the work session and then also as item 7.
That's right. That's right. You can stay, you can go back into the waiting room and it will be coming later on in our voting session. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's no problem. That's no problem. Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda is, we have a special guest tonight. Sharon Jackson's here to talk about the Franklin County Comprehensive Plan update. Mr. Jackson, are you on?
Yes, sir.
Hey, welcome. Welcome, Mr. Jackson. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, I'm glad that you all had some time that you could allot for me to give you an update.
Yes, sir.
If I might, I'd like to say good afternoon to the county judge and the magistrates. And again, thank you for the privilege of attending and giving you just a brief update on the comprehensive plan and what the Planning Commission is planning to do, and take any questions that you might have. And I plan to be very brief, Judge. At its September 15 at its meeting, the Planning Commission established what we call the steering committee for updating the comprehensive plan. On that steering committee, there are 7 individuals, 5 from the Planning Commission and 1 each from you, judge, or the magistrates, and then another individual from the mayor or the city commission. That makes up the 7. The 5 from the city, the Planning Commission, or 2 city appointed, 2 county appointed, and the governor's appointed, amounting to less than a quorum of the Planning Commission, because the comprehensive plan is a product of the Planning Commission and not a subset thereof, and therefore we cannot have a quorum which establishes a formal meeting of the Planning Commission should we come together. What we intend to do is to begin the process of updating the comprehensive plan, which of course ends in July of 2021. As you know, the pandemic kind of basically caused us to delay the process up to this point. But now that we have the steering committee that you're going to give us a member of, we can then begin the planning of the comprehensive plan update. That will be the establishment of a RFP to solicit professional assistance in doing the comprehensive plan. I'll suggest to you that it's been almost 20 years since the Planning Commission has had the assistance of a professional contractor to actually come in and do research and establish data and those kinds of things upon which the comprehensive plan is to be based. The steering committee will develop the RFP, we'll place it out there and get responses from interested parties. At that time, we will be able to determine what it would actually cost us to have a consultant come in and provide assistance. At that time also, you will receive a communication from me indicating what the county's share of that cost might be and what the city's share of that cost might be so that we can move forward. The intent of the Planning Commission is to establish a process through which public input into the development of the comprehensive plan can be obtained. And it's sort of a tricky situation in that when we start taking public input, members of the public want to be in the same room as the individual who might be talking so that they can see who's there, what is being said, body motions, and et cetera, so that when they prepare and do their response, it kind of looks at the whole ball of wax, and we want to be able to accommodate that to the extent possible. And a consultant will be able to assist us in being able to do that. We want to engage and include the university and other organizations about the community so that the comprehensive plan represents the entire community and not just sections of the community. At that point, Judge, I think I'll stop and just answer questions if there are questions that need to be responded to.
Okay, I'm sure there are. And one point of clarification, the steering committee, there are two people from the fiscal court, one a magistrate and the other one the planning and zoning director. Was that?
Well, the planning and zoning director is staff to the steering committee, just as that individual at the city is. But the a person from the fiscal court would be a proper member of the steering committee.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Jackson? Squire Booth.
Yes, ma'am.
You're muted, Marty. There you go.
Excuse me for that.
That's okay.
Before I was elected magistrate, I attended several of the discussions on the last update of the comprehensive plan, and it was tiring. And I applaud anybody that cares enough to listen to it and to contribute opinions. And we had meetings, or the meetings were held in a large space, and there were about 30 people that were seated around where they had vision of speakers and displays that were made for the discussion. And and the whole community, county, city, were invited. All of them were invited if they wanted to attend. Wasn't necessary, of course. But I suggest that we have a big space and a good sound system. And it's not really a question. It's just I'm hoping that you do that, and so that I can attend a few meetings like I did the last time. And
Before
I know
you get off
more.
there, I'm sorry, Squire Booth. Go ahead and finish.
Oh, I said I know more about the community now than I did then. And it's a really good way to learn about what future we think we should have.
So, Mr. Jackson, I piggybacking on what Squire Booth said, at this point in time and until who knows when, all your meetings will be done by Zoom. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, unless someone comes up with a better piece of technology. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I figured. Well, we don't see that on the horizon, and when they do, I hope it's a whole lot better. So we don't need another change, but that's, we'll just see what happens there. Is there any other questions are there any other questions from the fiscal court? Are there any other questions? Squire Muller.
Thank you, Judge, and thank you, Mr. Jackson, for coming to present to us. What you said you want a member of the court to be on the steering committee. When do you need to have that person figured out by?
Well, I need a response from you all probably in the next 14 days. And that what that'll do is give us time for staff, both city and county, to elicit information from the Bluegrass ad and other commissions in counties adjacent to us of consultants that they have used in their process and other pieces of information that might inform the development that we will be doing to the RFPs to make sure that all of the stuff that we're looking at in Franklin County covers what is really needed in order to have a first-class comprehensive plan. So within the next 14 days would be great, sir.
Well, if you'll hang on, I'll bring it to the court just 1 second. After all the questions are taken, I'll see if there's a nomination in just a moment. Are there any other questions? Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. And Chairman Jackson, thank you for joining us tonight. Have the 5 members of the Planning Commission already been named to the steering committee, or will that also be done within the next 2 weeks?
No, ma'am. The 5 members of the Planning Commission have been identified. Were identified as part of the last meeting. Would you like me to tell you who they are?
Yes, please.
The chairman and vice chairman, that's myself, and the vice chairman is Mr. Nichols, who's a county appointee. And then I've got Mr. Charlie Stewart, who is a county appointee. And then the governor's appointee was Ms. Catherine Bennett. And then Patty, can't think of Patty's last name.
Patty Cross?
Yes, Patty Cross, who is chair of the ARB and a city appointee. Those are the 5 Planning Commission appointees. Yes, sir.
Is Miss Bennett, is she the current governor's appointee?
Yes, sir. And the way the steering committee is established, sir, the current governor's appointee is the name given in the establishment of the steering committee, such that if the sitting governor decides that his appointee should be someone else, whomever that individual is, will simply join the commission and then be a member of the steering committee.
Okay. Squires, is there a nomination for a magistrate to be on the steering committee? Squire Muller?
Just another question for Mr. Jackson, maybe before we get there. What do you think time-wise the steering committee is going to entail of us, or a person?
Well, sir, Squire Muller, the process in the past has been that the steering committee has participated at every meeting of the commission in developing the comprehensive plan. Of course, now that we're naming a new steering committee, we can modify that to the extent that we need to modify it. Now, one of the things that the public likes to look at is the amount of time that is apportioned or that is provided and allotted for the members of the public to present to whatever planning commission activity that is ongoing. So, for example, and just for example purposes, a steering committee meeting to take information or input from the public may begin at 5 and may end up taking us until 10 or 11 o'clock at night. God forbid that that happens, but it does happen. And the steering committee would of course be in charge of saying how many meetings it would want to have, and then we would have the benefit of a consultant to assist us in this process. So you won't be working continuously through this process, because the consultant will pick up a lot of the load on that.
Okay, so, okay. I was just trying to get a more of a, you know, do you think it would take 6 public meetings and every 2 weeks the steering committee meet, or once a month? I was trying to just kind of get some kind of a timeline.
I would anticipate that the steering committee would not meet more than twice per month, but we do have to meet often enough to be able to get participation from citizens on both sides of the river and in the downtown areas, so that the community will feel as if they've been given access and had an opportunity to have input in the process. But I would not anticipate more than 2 meetings in a month, but likely maybe 1. And we don't, according to the statute, we are supposed to be finished by July of 2021. But given the pandemic and the environment in which we are operating, we have our legal counsel taking a look at whether or not, once we get started and immersed in this process, that we might be able to push the end point a little bit beyond July of 2021. That would decompress, if you will, that process a bit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? Is there a nomination by the court for a magistrate to serve on the steering committee? Squire Booth? You came on, or are you want to make a nomination?
Oh, no. I was going to say, though, that it's going to be more than once a month. I'm just sure.
Okay.
Twice a month would be reasonable, I think.
If so, no one's ready to make a nomination. So I guess Squire Muller, did you raise your hand? I'm sorry.
I guess it's not a nomination. I mean, I don't want to nominate myself. That sounds kind of weird, but I mean, I think this is one of the biggest things that's probably come across the table in a long time for us. So I'm willing to throw my name out there to be part of this plan. So I'd like to give all the other magistrates a chance to talk, or if someone else,
Squire Moore.
I'd be glad to nominate Squire Muller.
Okay, Squire, you want to nominate Squire Muller?
Yes.
Okay, Squire Tracy, are you trying to say something too?
Second.
Well, there'd be a third. Okay.
Oh, there's already 2. Yeah, okay, third. Yes, sorry, third.
Okay. All right. Is everybody okay? Just through a consensus, everybody okay if Squire Muller becomes a member of the steering committee? Everybody shake your head. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I was going to nominate myself. but I'm okay with Squire Muller.
Let's do it. Bring yourself in. Do you want to be on it? Okay.
Well, we're
very
supposed to have two.
Well, I know that.
Are we supposed to have two or one?
One.
One, that's what I thought, yeah.
One.
Okay, so now we've got two people that are running. Squire Blackburn? No?
I'm fine with Squire Blackburn doing it. He was very instrumental in what we went through. I'm good with that.
Squire Blackburn, do you want the job now?
I love the job. I've studied it for about 18 months now. So, and I know a lot of people in the community, diverse people in the community with differing opinions. And I think it's a great opportunity to get everybody involved.
Okay. Anybody want to second Squire Blackburn's nomination? Squire Booth, thank you. Okay. All right. Is everybody okay now? I'm sorry, Squire Muller. I thought we were at the point there now. Is everybody okay with Squire Blackburn being on there? Everybody okay? Nods. All right. Mr. Jackson?
Yes, sir.
J.W. Blackburn, magistrate, will be the court's member of the steering committee.
Well, thank you, sir. Be glad to have you, and we'll be fun to work with.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay. We appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is a homeless shelter for Franklin County. We have a bunch of guests that are on here tonight to speak in support of this. And this is a great opportunity for us to help the needy citizens in our community. Tommy Russell, do you want me to let you start and you want to introduce our guest?
Thank you, sir. As everybody knows, in the world of emergency management, it a lot of time comes down to sheltering, housing, homeless, especially in these days of COVID. Everybody has seen all the uptick in homelessness and social distancing, where we had to go back and create another shelter at Frankfurt I's gym in an emergency situation. I sought out the assistance of two very talented young ladies, Miss Blair Hecker and Miss Ashley Brown, to help drive this project. We visited several different properties, looked around the city for viable alternatives to seek some type of emergency shelters. We ended up identifying the old public health building on Glens Creek Road, which Fiscal Court owns. So we would like to make a presentation to Fiscal Court tonight to get your all's input, to get your thoughts, to see if this is viable, if this is a possibility. And again, like I say, this is just a presentation from us. I'm sure that there will be a lot of questions, and we will do our best to answer those. This is just a request from the world of emergency management and the community to Fiscal Court to try to help us with a very difficult situation. That said, Judge, I would like to introduce Miss Hecker and Ms. Brown, and I think they have a couple of other guests with them. And hopefully this presentation won't be an extremely long presentation.
We happen to know Miss Hecker and Miss Brown, and we
You guys just can't get rid of us.
We're glad to see you. Thank you. Welcome.
Well, thank you guys for having us. And Ashley's going to get us started and introduce everyone we have with us. But I am going to go ahead and share my screen and start our presentation. Okay.
All right. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Hello.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Good to see you guys. A little background on this project, Tommy Russell and Emergency Management reached out to myself and Blair after recognizing the need for emergency shelter, especially after the COVID event. Like Tommy mentioned, the use of the Frankfurt High Gym. And so with us today, we've got John Martin, who is the executive director for the Simon House. I'm sorry, board chair. And we have, sorry about that, John. Yeah, and then we have Rachel Foley with us, who is the executive director.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Yeah, so basically, mine and Blair's role in this project was to connect with each individual shelter and kind of identify the needs of their shelter and what they felt like the community needs were for their clients. So that's what we did. In a nutshell, we just basically addressed the fact that each shelter really needed that emergency housing space. And that was how we came up with the East Main, the old health department building. So I'll kind of later take it from there.
So what we did, oh, I'm sorry, my computer's going slow, is met with each of the 4 shelter organizations, as you guys saw listed. And the thing that really stood out to Ashley and I in all of this was that all 4 of these organizations were on the same page with what their needs were, and especially what was brought to light this spring by the COVID emergency situation. And that was primarily immediate access to emergency shelter space. Many of our shelters provide varying levels of long-term client services, short-term client services, but many of our shelters, especially those serving women and children specifically, are spending huge amounts of their budgets annually housing clients who come in who need just very immediate emergency shelter, not necessarily long-term transitional programs. And that's something that this community doesn't have. And so in meeting with all of these organizations, all of the other 3 shelters all felt like they were, well, I should back up and say all of our shelters in this town do a phenomenal job. They all do so much with so little. These executive directors, the staff, all of our shelters have staff, which is a huge benefit for a nonprofit of their sizes. They have dedicated volunteers, so much community support, and that comes from the court and the city commission and donors, businesses alike. But they are tapped. They are at their capacity for their resources, and many of them, their services that they provide are dictated by the funding that they receive. So they all agree that emergency shelter was a need for them and for our community. And Simon House was the one who their executive director and their board felt like they had the resources available and the resources and the alignment with their existing mission and the services that they provide to their clients to step up and take that role on. So the proposal that we are bringing before you today, and as Tommy said, we worked on identifying different areas, different properties, what even this project would look like and where the best benefit would be for it. So the proposal we're bringing to you is for the fiscal court to enter into a lease agreement for the former health department building located at 231 East Main Street. And that's going to be with the Simon House. And that is going to be negotiated. So Ashley and I this is the end of the road for Ashley and I. We've been working on doing needs assessments and community inventory and all of these conversations. And so this is our proposal, and Simon House is, going to take it from here if the fiscal court would like to enter into this agreement with them to provide this community service. And so they are ready and able to take this on. So we would also like to request, that lease. With that lease agreement, the Simon House will take on all of the monthly utilities and maintenance going forward, the start date of that lease. And again, all other terms can be negotiated, and I know the county attorney will be involved, if it gets to that point, and all the different stakeholders. And then we would like to ask the city and the county to share the cost of what we are calling the phase 1 renovations, which will get the building up to a point where 15 clients can spend the night on an emergency shelter basis, and the Simon House can move their administrative operations into the upper level of that building. We would also like to propose, and again, this is another area that can be negotiated with the court and with the Simon House, but that the court, if they so choose, would set a purchase price for the Simon House with the option for them to purchase that shelter for that agreed upon price in 3 years. Okay, so to touch on these immediate phase 1 updates, these are our estimate for this, and we do have a slide later on that lays out what these number estimates are. But right now, our estimates are around $122,000. So you do have a resolution for you that you can vote on tonight if the court chooses to enter into this agreement that lays out that if the city also agrees to this, each entity, city and county, would not exceed more than $100,000 each for these renovations. If it does come out pretty close to our estimates, it's going to be between $60,000 and $70,000 each. What this will allow the Simon House to do. So right now the Simon House operates, and I'm sure John and Rachel can expand on this a little bit more. The Simon House operates a separate administrative office building where they can provide some client services and house their staff, separate from their actual shelter where their clients live. This will allow them, so the cost to taking over the utilities and moving their administrative offices into that upper level are comparable to what they're paying for that facility, for that office space they're renting now. And then with an agreement to have this building, that then opens them up to be able to apply for, they've already begun investigating and looking at grant opportunities that once they have a property where they could house residents on an emergency basis, then they are opened up to more grant funding to make that work out. And then within 3 to 4 years, the Simon House would be able to purchase that building. So then that would guarantee that revenue return back to the fiscal court for that property. And then allow the Simon House to hopefully, expand even farther, to invest in some of those higher maintenance costs, like a sprinkler system for the building. That's going to allow them to double that initial client capacity. So why the health department building? Like we said, we've looked at a lot of other options. The first big benefit to this is that it is already a county owned building. So it is something that, is not any other property would require a pretty substantial lease or purchase price. The footprint of the building is also set up extremely well for what this would serve as. So the downstairs large area with modifications, adding a firewall and modifications to the windows and some doorways will allow for up to 15 people to stay. And then the upstairs is already set up for administrative offices to allow the Simon House staff to work there, to allow for potentially some shared community meeting space for client services, classes, all things like that, without having to invest a lot in substantial building renovation and altering the footprint of that existing building. The location is also very ideal. It's, located still close to some of the other shelters. So the goal is that, if clients come in and they're needing access to the soup kitchen or to one of the other longer term shelter facilities or, another social service agency in this town, they're still fairly close to that and located right on a Frankfurt Transit bus stop right outside that facility, which is huge. That property is also adjacent to, Judy mentioned earlier, the health department clinic that's located right behind this property. And many of our clients who will be utilizing services from the Simon House or staying in this facility will be taking advantage of that. Same thing with the Cabinet for Human Resources building through the state. Being located in close proximity to. It also does provide an option for growth. So, we start out with 15 clients, which may not seem like a huge amount, but 15 clients, at any given time is a pretty big number for these agencies who are right now, many of them having to pay for single night stays in hotel rooms. The other part that came out of all this needs assessment that Ashley and I realized was, I know the court is probably familiar with the Frankfurt Cares Coalition that was implemented a few years ago and run by emergency management. An emergency housing unit was established out of that. And, I think all four of the agencies the shelter agencies that we talked to about this overwhelmingly said that they wanted to reconvene that group, have meetings monthly, and just get back together and talk. And that's something, we feel like the timing is right for that all these agencies are realizing that they want to get together and talk. And so many of them are already sharing services between each other to really better assist their clients. So, it could be, so all four of our shelter agencies have their boards and staff have agreed to be part of the Frankfurt Cares Coalition. Those meetings are going to probably start up in October. Each agency is going to be sending a representative, and they're just all going to be at the same table and continue these discussions that we started about the gaps in services and where they think the community can grow and, how they can utilize all of their shared services and forces together. So the returns on this investment, why this is also an attractive offer for the fiscal court is that, this building has long been talked about with needing updates and upgrades. This is a way to go ahead and make that happen. We've identified that cost and go ahead and lay out those funds, get those upgrades made. The Simon House, upon start of this lease agreement, will take over the building utilities monthly. And so that's going to be an immediate cost relief for the fiscal court. And then if the court agrees to, and the Simon House mutually agree to a purchase price and a 3-year timeline for that, that's going to guarantee those revenues from the building back to the court. And then again, just like what we talked about, the CARES Coalition is, that's huge. And the fact that all of our agencies are really committed to getting together and talking and working together, we see this as a potential starting point for something. 4 years from now, the coalition, they could be meeting and going strong, and there could be opportunities for community grant applications that are going to assist all of our services, all of our shelter services equally. But that's something that group is going to be able to drive. And so with that, we're just going to hand it off to Rachel and John and just let them give you guys a little bit of update history about the Simon House and the role they play in our community and, how they see their role evolving into this project as well.
Okay, welcome, Rachel and John. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. So we just wanted to, what we're going to do is we're just going to start out with just some history. I know some of you probably are familiar with Simon House, but maybe not. So what we wanted to do is just kind of fill you in on how Simon House was started, and then we're going to work into just some data that we've come about in the last year, and especially with the temporary shelter in
in April and May and June. So, so I'm going to give you a brief story. In 1985, Simon House view was there was a woman who was pregnant and looking for somewhere to go. She didn't have anywhere to go, so she called the pregnancy hotline that was around at that point, and a Vista AmeriCorps worker decided that she was worth helping as much as possible. So it took many hours of trying to find somewhere for this woman to go so that she would be able to bring her baby home to a place. With that said, she was finally able to find a duplex on Home Street, and that was the start of Simon House. She not only was able to house this young woman, but also 3 other women who had children or were pregnant. Simon House in 1987 became a 501c3. And at that point is when we obtained the 208 West Campbell Street shelter. And that's where we have been ever since then. We've been very successful in completing our mission of being able to help women feel like they are safe, their children are safe, and that they can learn to be self-sufficient where they may have not had that opportunity before. We have case managers on staff who, by providing excellence and empathy and compassion, are able to provide the support that these women do not have. Along with this and over the years, Simon House has developed another side, and that is our community services side. So not only are we able to help women with children with shelter and other needs, but we're also able to help our low income community. And that is with things like diapers, formula, clothing, household goods if they just moved, hotel nights if we don't have another option for them and they're out on the streets or living in their car. You know, our case managers are very dedicated to our cause. I'm very dedicated to our cause. And with that, like I said, you know, I mean, it takes a very judgment-free environment for these people to feel like they're accepted and can feel comfortable in asking for help, because normally a lot of the time people, that's the last thing they want to do is ask for help. Within the last year, we have been able to obtain victims of crime grant funding, and that allowed us to hire another case manager. And so we've been able to focus on not only the clients that we already have in our shelter who are more often than not victims of crime, but also our community. And it's allowed us to open up different services and avenues and resources that we were not able to provide before. We are very excited about this opportunity. And so the next thing I want to share with you is a couple of success stories that we've had, one from our shelter side and one from our community service side. Without naming names, the first success story is about a woman who came to our shelter, and she had just gotten out of a 9-month rehab program and was 9 months pregnant. She had her baby, and the first home that her baby came to was Simon House. But she was able to have a roof over this child's head for the next year while we worked with her endlessly on helping her obtain a job after her maternity leave, helping her obtain all the documents that she needed to get housing, get on multiple housing lists, waiting lists, anything that was going to help her be able to have her own 4 walls. With this, as of March of this year, she was able to move into her own apartment where she now stays with her 1-year-old and has been very successful in, you know, keeping her job even through COVID, and just being a sustainable part of society now. And she still occasionally, which is what's so great about
these stories is that she still comes by. You know, we still get to see the progress and life of her daughter and know that we were able to help her and making sure that her daughter had a place to live. So that's just one story, and I have many others like that. If you're ever interested in hearing, I could go on. The other story that I've got is about our community service side. There was a homeless gentleman that came in and actually kind of stumbled into our office on accident, didn't really know what we were about, and came in just looking for, you know, some help, a drink of water. And what ended up happening with that is we got him an apartment. We were able to assist him with his deposit, and he now has been living there for the last 4 months successfully, has been able to get a job. And again, this was just with him finding our office by accident and feeling comfortable enough to walk in and ask us for help and for food and maybe for a night stay at a hotel room. But that's, as you can see, that is the problem, I guess. That's where we run into not having enough places for people to stay, or not having the amount of room for people. And so his story is one that is just wonderful because and a little background on him, he actually is almost completely blind. And so we've also been able to help him with services that he didn't even think he could get. He's gotten a case manager that's going to help him with a service dog, with someone to come in and help him daily on his, you know, with housework and that kind of stuff. So these are all things that he didn't expect that he could get and now is able to. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a few statistics on Simon House and what some of the things that we've done, not only just us, but with the different agencies that we've partnered with, the women's shelter, the men's shelter, and with emergency management and several other agencies that we've just been very successful with. One of the things that we've been successful with is we were able to obtain an emergency apartment, and this helped cut down on some of the use of hotel rooms. So the agreement with that began in May of 2019, and we had this agreement, with the housing authority, and they were able to give us an apartment to continue to house at least one other family at a time, without having to spend money on hotel rooms. Within the year that we were that we had this apartment, and we still have it, but with the most updated info that we had that apartment occupied 71% of the time. The amount of nights that were occupied were 181, and we saved about $6,000 in hotel rooms just by having that one unit. The next project that we worked with everybody on was the Temp Shelter, and again, that ran from April 13th to June 15th. Some of the stats on that is we ended up serving 81 clients, and it was a total of 1,092 nights, which means that per person per night, that's the amount of nights that we were able to keep somebody sheltered or keep people sheltered. Within that, we had a 30% of that population was female, 1.2% was transgender, and 68.29% of that were males. We had 12 clients that were in the 18 to 24 range, 61 clients in the 25 to 59 range, and 8 who were over 60. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention stat-wise is that, you know, with our VOCA money, we were able to serve 62% of those clients, not just with help with housing and that kind of stuff, but also because they had been victims of crimes, we were able to
help them in that department as well, and helping them get the resources that they may not have been able to get without having that kind of case manager. Simon House, this year and with COVID, still we've had 924 hours of volunteer service, and that is still with 3 months left of the year. So, you know, with these facts, I hope that you guys can see that there is such a need for a place in Franklin County that is above and beyond the places that we already have. We still need those places, but we also need something additional. And with this, again, like Blair said, yes, 15 people doesn't sound like very much, but if you have 15 people every night over the next year, those nights start to add up. And when you think about how much money we've had to put into hotel rooms because we did not have to have this available, that money also starts to add up. So I hope that that gives you guys a good picture of the need in Franklin County. And if you guys have any further questions about that, please feel free to reach out to me or to John.
Well,
and
you'll just stay on, Rachel. We're going to have some questions. If you'll just hang in there.
No, yeah, I'm not, because I wanted to talk about our budget, but I wanted to show you guys the need on that. With the budget that you guys had seen, or maybe are seeing right now, as you can see, with the building, we would have a proposed budget of $302,256. That you can see in there where we would be asking for reasonable increases within our grant. Some of the stats are a little off just because we're still in that 2020 year. So we had our 2019 year as a comparable. Some of the things I wanted to mention is with like our emergency solutions grants. In 2020, we actually received $65,000. So we would be in 2021 asking for and expecting a reasonable increase, especially if we were able to obtain this building and continue our services, that we would write that into our grant and ask for more money. Obviously, you can see with the city and county, we would be asking for increases as we do every year. And what I would like you guys to keep in mind is that some of these numbers are going to be more, some of them will be less. You know, we do have several fundraisers we do per year. We do have United Way funds that come in, and there's been several grants that we've applied for this year, and there's always grants that we find every year that we apply for additionally to what we expect to come in. Obviously, with our expenditures, our salaries are going to be our biggest expenditure, as with everybody. And one of the things that are going to help us with that is another grant that we have applied for. It's a different kind of emergency solutions grant. It's called the Emergency Solutions Grant COVID. So that will hopefully help us with the salary costs that will come with getting this building. Again, if you guys have any questions, which I'm sure you will, please feel free to ask.
Okay, if you don't mind, Rachel, well, thank you for your presentation, and thank you, Blair. Thank you all for and Ashley for your presentation as well. I'm going to throw it back to the magistrates and let them ask questions, if that's okay, Blair. Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right. So, Squires, who's got a question? Squire Booth. You're muted.
In the 2021 budget, or the 21 budget, for expenditures, I don't see anything for a payment on the building that you expect to buy from the county. Is it just an oversight, or are you just waiting to see if we want to sell it?
So
Go ahead, Blair.
Well, we'll start and then I'll let Rachel finish. So the proposal is that they would lease the building with the cost being just taking over the utilities. So, whatever that lease is going to be, that's what the Simon House and the fiscal court would come to the table and discuss. Ideally, that would be $1 a year or, something like that. But again, something that you guys are all going to be able to discuss with taking over utilities and maintenance and things like that. The purchase price would come in 3 years. So essentially, coming up with a figure that everyone can agree with if that's what the direction that the court wishes to go, and everyone agrees upon it, and then giving the Simon House time to plan for that cost in 3 years. And Rachel or John, I don't know if you guys want to elaborate more on that.
I was under the impression that it would take 3 years to pay for an amount that was close to $100,000, but I'm just making that up, I guess. You expect the whole purchase price to be paid in 1 year?
No, what we are asking for, just to make it a little bit easier for everyone to plan for, is, purchase would happen in 3 years. Now, again, that is if the court votes to, to accept this entire proposal, there will be more conversations about what that exact agreement is going to look like. If that's a direction you guys want to discuss going, I would imagine that would be on the table, and that may be more, feasible for everyone. I'm not sure, but that would come down between the court and the board to discuss and, negotiate, figure out how that's going to work best for everybody.
Well, I haven't gotten an answer, in my opinion, to whether you expect I think the Simon House would buy the building from the court, from fiscal court, and pay for the purchase price, whatever that might be, and hopefully not a lot, in 1 year. Is that,
No.
That's not reasonable?
Blair, let me help on this, okay? Squire, for 3 years, right now, and this is rough, that's about $700 a month in utilities that we are paying for the health department building. What they are asking is, and we come up with a negotiated amount for 3 years, they pay us on a month for a lease on the building. After the 3rd year, they will go after grants and have money and then buy the building, and all at one time. It's not over a 3-year period. They will buy the building. If whatever we negotiate on and they agree upon, they will buy the building out from under us at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I thought that's where you're going with it. Thank you.
And may I add something to that?
Yes,
the
sir.
$120,000 that was mentioned, those are renovation costs. That is not rental or purchase price. That is to bring the building up to some standard amenities for what we do.
Yeah, and that money can be and would be used from CARES money. That CARES money, according to DLG, this type of project is eligible under the CARES money. So it would not be coming out of our budget.
Oh.
And the cities as well.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you, John. Anyone else? Questions? Squire Moore.
Could you put those revenues back up on your proposed budget for next year?
Just a minute.
That's the salaries. I want to see the revenues.
There you go.
Because it doesn't add up very much. I mean, very well. You're increasing your outgoing by a considerable amount, and you're expecting a whole lot more coming in.
Keep in mind that we used our 2019 budget Our 2020, it was a little hard to use just because we're right in the middle of it, so we didn't have accurate numbers as to what we had spent. But our 2020 budget has already increased because we received VOCA contributions in 2019, whereas in 2020, whereas in 2019 we had not received those yet. So in 2020 we received VOCA, a VOCA budgeted item, and so that is what is going to help us with that increase that you're not seeing right now.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other, I'm sorry, Squirmore, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, on the other list, you had your salaries were going way up also.
Right. So with the 2021 budget, what we're looking at is, because we would need to have staff that would be around the clock. So we would need to have additional staff members. We already have an additional case manager that I mentioned with our victims of crime. Again, this all happened in 2021, which is our current year. So we were not able to accurately put those numbers in. But we already have an increased budget because of that. And in 2021, we would need to increase that again, because we would have at least 2 additional staff, if not more, if not 3, is what we had originally planned for, to be able to staff our shelter around the clock. And so with one of the proposed in our grant that we just applied for, 2 of those staff members are written into that grant, hopefully to be able to be funded through that. And that would take care of our coordinators who would be doing our intake for our for the 15-person shelter.
Do you have any documentation? Do you keep documentation on where your people come from, your homeless people? Are they Franklin County people, or are they from
Yes, primarily
out of county, out of state?
We do have some out of county. We do serve surrounding counties, not just Franklin County. But we had, give me just a second here. With the temporary shelter, out of those 81, we only served 7 clients that were out of county. So as you can see, the other 76 of them, I'm sorry, 74 of them were Franklin County residents.
That's at the Forever High Gym location?
That was at the gym, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? Seeing no other questions, Blair. Oh, wait a minute. I thought I saw a hand. Okay, Squire Tracy, I think I saw yours first.
Thanks, Judge. Good afternoon, and thank you all for being with us. Just a quick question. Obviously, this is what I received in the book. There was nothing in the work session information. So, Blair, for you, would it be possible to get a copy of your presentation tonight that we got? And then also, can I get a copy of the list of properties that you all looked at and considered, if at all possible?
Well, some of them are private, so yeah, we can see what we can do, what we can disclose and not. So
okay. And then I guess my last question would be this: what stood out in regards to the East Main property, the old health department building? What stood out with it in comparison to the old plant board building that's downtown, right around the same block as most of these other places?
yeah. So one of the things that, and Rachel and John can jump in too, but one of the things that was the biggest for us was the existing footprint, and it allows for that administrative space to be separate from the emergency shelter space. So you have dedicated floors, doors that can be locked for safety security reasons, exit on both levels to provide for more adequate safety, client confidentiality, people who are coming in and out of that upstairs administrative office is very important. That layout does provide for that. And same thing with the clients who are going to be spending the night overnight downstairs. The other thing that we did hear a lot of is that a lot of stakeholders are not keen on our shelter buildings being right in our main entrances to downtown. And so, this building has close proximity to all of the locations that clients need to get to. It is still technically in the downtown area. It is located very well on transit bus routes, but it is not, it's got space. It has more space for the operations to take place and for clients to come and go and things like that. So all those things made it ideal. I would also say too, financially, anything else that we would look into would require substantial upgrades to the footprint of the building. And so, this is going to be a pretty minimal initial investment just to get it up and running.
Yeah. May I add a couple of things as chair of the board?
Yes.
I'll be very brief. First off, thank you very much for allowing us to present tonight. And I'd also like to thank our staffs for the various shelters and the folks who serve them as volunteers. It's important work in our city. I think this is a win-win for everybody. If we can provide a safe place for people who are shelter challenged and food challenged, these are people that are off the streets. This can reduce the need for some levels of public security. I don't have numbers, but I have a sense that this is a win-win for everybody involved. When these folks end up in a homeless situation, sometimes they made a decision as the only decision they could make at that time. And we are helping them redecide some of the decisions they've made in their lives. And we are helping them find employment and housing. And they are becoming supportive members of the community rather than people whom the community is assisting. So I think this is a win-win for us in both the short term and the long term. And based on what I just said, I thank you one more time for listening to us tonight, because I think we can have some great collaborative efforts here.
Okay, thank you. Squire Sebastian, you had your hand up.
I did. Thank you, Judge. And thank you folks who were able to present tonight. I did want to appreciate Squire Tracy's questions. He beat me to those, so I appreciate those already being asked. And I think I had asked some questions this summer about the shelter, and this is kind of a follow-up to Squire Moore. Some of the information I received had indicated that some folks were transported in from California and stayed at the Ewing Street gym. So and I think that was information that I had received directly from the Simon House. So we did certainly shelter people from outside our community and outside of our state here in Franklin County.
And to go off of that particular client that you're talking about, or clients, they are now residents of Franklin County, successfully housed, and now contributing members to the to our society.
Very good. Thanks. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Judge,
Squire Moore.
I'm sorry.
Squire Moore. Let's let Squire Moore go.
Everything I'm reading in here, and you've mentioned everybody, and you mentioned one man that you helped, but it's our packet says women. Is it just for women, or is it for men and women and children?
To be honest, it's going to be what we need at the time. Right now, during our COVID emergency and pandemic, we may need men and women to be sheltered. Unfortunately, there have been some cases at Access where they had to quarantine, and it increased our ask of us being asked for hotel nights because there were men who were not able to stay there due to being quarantined. So during the pandemic and in other emergencies that may arise, it's very possible that we're going to have a co-ed shelter. There may be a time where it might just be women. Right now, we are open to co-ed because it is what is needed.
Okay, thank you.
Tommy Russell.
I was going to make almost that comment, Judge. It's that the old health department building, the downstairs of that allows us to maybe create 2 separate shelters to segregate if we have to, because during these times, regardless of the sex or the gender or anything else of the individual that I get a call about that's out on the street, it doesn't matter whether they're from California or Florida or anywhere. I'm not going to leave them on the street. You and I have had that conversation many times, and that a true emergency is an emergency for everyone.
And one more thing, if I can add.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rachel.
Go ahead.
No, it's for you.
One more thing is that Simon House is a low barrier shelter. We accept anybody that comes in with any issues that they may have, and we are doing our best to make sure that if they want these issues resolved, that we are there to help them and be there and be that support system for them. Like John said, to get them to be contributing members of Franklin County. So, you know, we are non-judgmental. We're going to accept anybody who comes in from wherever they come from. And with that, I also wanted to thank you for listening tonight.
All right, Squire Muller.
Thank you, Judge, and thank you to everybody that presented. I think everybody on this court is very appreciative of what Simon House does. My concerns are, for the last 2 years, I've heard how bad a shape that building's in. So looking at it from a construction standpoint, I have concerns as far as it being a bigger thing to bite off for you all, and just maybe not the best. And in our packet, it says women and children. And, you know, to me, that building is on a major street, 2 streets, with nowhere for kids to play, to be safe. There's just some things like that that I have some concerns about, just for the good of everybody. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But I look forward to getting that information from Blair and kind of looking at it, and we can talk about it.
And for now, with that said, I mean, we do have our existing shelter that is for women and children. With the shelter in the downstairs area, that would be the shelter. It would be for individuals, for women, for single women and single men.
And it would be more
We wouldn't have
temporary.
children there at that point.
And it would be more
for now.
More temporary, because our residential shelter is for a longer term stays. It's not just overnight. Right, Rachel?
Right.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, everyone, thank you. We're going to have on our agenda an item for asking the court for a commitment to continue pursuing this in just a moment. And so thanks to Blair, you, Ashley, Rachel, John, thank you for being here tonight and enlighten us on the great work that you do at the Simon House for our community and for those people that are in need. Thank you for that. We're going to move on now to the agenda, and we'll get back to that item in a little bit. So you all are welcome to stay on or go back into the room and whatever it's called, waiting room and whatever. But anyway, thank you. Let's move forward.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We've got 2, let's go. First item is authorization approval of minutes from a regular meeting of August the 27th, 2020. Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. When I looked at that tab had no minutes behind it.
Tamara.
Maybe my book is the only one that doesn't have minutes in it. Anybody else have minutes?
Everybody else has got minutes. Sorry. She'll send it to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. appreciate that.
You received it in the email also.
Okay, you got it in the email too, Squire Sebastian.
Yeah, I just go off of the hard copy that's delivered to everybody. So looking at the hard copy that I got, it didn't have any minutes in it. So thank you.
Okay.
Anytime, feel free to reach out to me before the meeting and I'll get them right over to you.
Any other questions on the minutes from August 27th? Next item is authorization approval of minutes from our public tax hearing of September the 8th, 2020. Any question on those minutes? Did you get those, Squire Sebastian?
Thank you for asking, Judge. I did get those, so I appreciate that. Whoever puts these together.
All right.
Thanks for your tab 3. Thank you.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is first reading of an ordinance approving a lease for the financing of a project, providing for the payment and security of the lease, and authorizing the execution of various documents related to such lease. And we have a special guest tonight, Grant Satterley, representing KCO. And Grant, you came on early and you've heard a lot, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for being on. Grant Satterley, are you here?
Appreciate the opportunity to join you.
Thank you, Grant. And Susan, you want to start, and then we'll let Grant come in.
Good evening, Court. The Finance Committee met, and Grant did a presentation for us on some financing options involving bond issues and some very favorable interest rates. Grant's the expert who can help guide us through this. It's the first time we've borrowed significant money in the recent years and with this court. So I'll defer to our lending expert, Mr. Satterley. Go ahead, take it away.
Good to be with all of you this evening. First wanted to tell you that we have suggested for the county's use a program that we call our bond pool. The purpose of this bond pool is to issue the debt in conjunction with several counties at once, and we do this 5 to 6 times a year. And it has the benefit that it is backed by reserve accounts that have been posted by KCO for the benefit of all the counties. As a result, Franklin County will be able to borrow at a AA- rating, where you couldn't do that in your own name. And as a matter of fact, the state of Kentucky can't borrow at quite that rate anymore. So it's a way to make your rate as low as possible. As I said, this will be, we will do at least 5 or 6 of these issues this year, and each one has anywhere from 6 to 10 participants. So it's a widely used product. We've been doing it for 10 years, and it has worked extremely well. What we are proposing is that you take your combined projects, which is the energy conservation program and the fire truck, and combine that, and you can pay for it in one debt, and we can do that in such a way that you will finish paying for the fire truck at whatever number of years you choose, and the longer project then would amortize over its length of time, but can be done with one borrowing. Just to give you some representative rates as they appear in today's market, and I'm going to tell you these are very conservative estimates. At a short term of 7 years, it's about 1.34%. If you go out to 10, it rises to about 1.66, and at 15, it is at 2.10. Now, I will all tell you again, that's conservative, and as evidence of that, we did one of these issues about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it was 18 years long, and they got a rate of 1.70. That we won't know your final rate until the date of the sale of bonds, because in Kentucky, the law requires that all county bond issues have to be sold competitively. So we know where the market is, but you won't know the final exact rate till the date of sale. Now, this we've mentioned terms here of 5, 7, and 15 years, but we can adapt this any way that the county says they would like for it to. If you want it shorter, longer, however you want to do it, that is not a problem. We're very flexible in the way that we put them together. To join the bond pool, it requires the passage of 2 or 3 documents. to get started. Now, remember that anything that you pass tonight still does not obligate you to borrow. You will always have the right up to the date of sale to say, we don't want to do it. No questions asked. But to start the process, it requires the passing of an ordinance that states the intent to borrow and that it's a general obligation debt. And that's all that the ordinance basically does. Second thing that has to be passed is an interlocal agreement. And the IRS just requires that if you're doing this kind of combined pooling, that the counties have to be bound by some legal instrument which just says we're all in it together, and it spells out what it means to be in the bond pool. The other thing which we'll do is anytime a county borrows $500,000 or more, it is required to go through hearing protocols with the Department for Local Government. That we start that by we've already delivered a package to your finance committee and to the judge for them to look at. This package simply states the general terms under which you think you want to borrow, and there will end up being 2 hearings. One that you all will convene and you advertise. It can be where and at your discretion you choose for it to be. The second one will be held at by the Department for Local Government, and it will be done virtually. This has been a set of regulations that's been in existence since the 1930s. So this is a long-standing process, and it is nothing unique to Franklin County. We anticipate that this bond issue will be sold around the 1st of December, give or take a week. And we anticipate that you and the other people who would be in that sale will be very well received by the market. CAECO, for its part, will be with you from the beginning here through all of the process. We will expedite and help with all the document preparation. And as a matter of fact, in this pool, we will be your partner for the entire life of the issue, because we will even invoice you at the times that payments are due. We'll be there if you have questions or problems or something you need to answer. We will be. Now, in 15 years, it may not be me, but there will be somebody here doing that. So we will be your partner throughout the life of the issue. Do you have any questions at all? I'll be glad to take it wherever you would like to go as far as discussing it.
Okay, are there any questions, Squires? Squire Sebastian went first. Okay.
Thank you, Judge. And Mr. Satterley, thank you again for joining the full court this time rather than. This question is really for Susan, and everybody in their packet should have a tab 13, which is our budget tonight. And if you'll recall, during the budget discussions earlier in the year, we actually put the full rate of this fire truck in as an expense. And it still shows that on page 11 of the document tonight. So I guess we're taking that out of the budget as an expense. And then I just want to make sure that everybody on the court understands how this process is going to work. Because we had already demonstrated this as an expense for the existing budget year that we're in. So Susan, can you speak to that?
Well, first of all, we did budget for borrowing $900,000 for the fire truck. So we have a budgeted expense of an equal amount to purchase the fire truck, to borrow $900,000 and to purchase the fire truck. We are already obligated to buy that fire truck with borrowed money or not. So that expense is there. The budget also included an estimate for debt service. And I might say that all the rates that have been quoted tonight are much more favorable than what our conservative budget estimate was at 2.25%. So we are definitely in a very favorable interest rate environment to make that work better. Because of the timing mid-year, the amount of debt service that we estimated and put into our capital fund for debt service was, I think, $74,000, $75,000 related to the fire truck only. So just that part of the bond issue is already budgeted.
Right. I just want to make sure everybody understood that because we
Yes.
talked quite a bit about this during the budget discussion and, you know, only a few of us are on the finance committee. So it's just good to make sure, even if it takes 5 minutes to educate everybody on why they're hearing about it again.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay, any other questions? Squire Muller?
Thank you, Judge. Squire Sebastian talked about the Finance Committee. So I was wondering if somebody could just kind of give us a quick recap. Did this come out of committee with full blessings, or was there any controversy for any reason? Just curious.
I was in the finance committee and we approved of what, at least I got the impression that we approved of what Grant Satterley presented to us at the time.
This is a process, and this is the beginning of a process to get this these monies taken care of. And because their energy program was going on simultaneously, we talked to Grant about how do we handle that when that comes to fruition. And so he said, we will go this route. We'll put X amount of money in. You don't have to take it. You can take whatever you want, as little of or as much as. And so the finance committee saw that as a possibility, as a way to two birds with one stone.
Okay, thank you.
Squire Sebastian?
Yes, thank you, Judge. And just Squire Muller, just for edification, recently we've had 2 finance committee meetings. One where some initial figures were discussed about the possibility of borrowing through this bond pool. And what we had asked of the representatives from KCO was to come back with multiple years to kind of demonstrate what the payout may be. And certainly we've talked about this before. Dissimilar items can be in a bond pool should we so choose. And once we kind of see, this is kind of a known figure, the fire truck. Unfortunately, we don't know what the ramifications of the energy project are going to be at this point. So we just kind of wanted to be able to put a few options out there to see, since dissimilar items can be put into one bond pool, we may determine that we could pay the fire truck off and accelerate the payments to pay that off maybe before the entire bond period. And Mr. Satterley was good about explaining to us penalties and or lack of penalties based on a certain number of years. I asked some questions about if we ultimately choose to pay this off early or at a certain period of time, if interest rates are more favorable, if we could refinance those bonds. So we tried to ask quite a few questions along that line just to kind of see what our options are. And I think what's coming before the court tonight is to say that if we want to go this route, we're not locking in our vote the way I understand it at any amount. We are discussing the possibility of continuing down this path. And right up until the day the bonds are issued, we can always, as a court, say, no, we don't want to go down that path. But that's the way I understand it. So I'm just putting that out
correct.
as a member of the court who sits just like the other 6 of you right now.
Thank you. Thank you for the explanation, and thank you, Squire Booth and Judge, for the cliff notes. That's all I have.
Grant Satterley, did you want to make a statement?
I just want to say that going down this process, you don't have to pick the final amount of money that you'll have till probably mid-November. About a week or 2 before the proposed bond sale, we would need to come up with a final amount. But between now and then, you have time to work with your representatives and decide how much you would like to borrow.
Okay, Squire Tracy had his hand up, then Squire Blackburn, then Squire Sebastian. So sorry. Squire Tracy.
Thanks, Judge. Just quick question. By chance, was a new road department facility discussed when?
No, it was not. It was not. That was going to be part of the energy, and we pulled that out. So no, we have not. Squire Blackburn?
make sure I'm not muted here. Yeah, Mr. Satterley had said that we will have a better bond rating and we'll share the benefits of being in this group with other counties. Will we also share any risks involved with the other counties?
Absolutely not. There is no cross collateralization, no cross liabilities. It's simply going to market at one time, and it helps me disperse the cost of issuance over several borrowers. But at no point in time do you owe anybody else's debt or theirs of yours either way.
Thank you.
Good question. Squire Sebastian?
Good question.
Squire Blackburn, thank you for asking that, because I asked the same thing in the meeting, because we didn't want to be certainly on the hook for anyone else's debt. So it's good to continue to hear that same answer. One thing that the finance committee members did bring up is we don't have a lot of information in regard to the energy project. So we're a little bit in the dark on that. And we really kind of focused a lot of our efforts on the actual process more than items that would be covered with this bond, because like I said, again, me being on fire, got a lot of information about the energy project. So I couldn't even.
You're covered. What we're doing is we're doing the paperwork at a maximum level of up to 8 million. And all that means is if you want 4, you're covered. You don't have to ever borrow 8 million, but if you tell me we wanted to add this or that, we have room to put in that issue without going through a second hearing process, anything that you all ask for.
And Grant, correct me if I'm wrong, but we so month, in the month of October, we're going to be buying a fire truck.
Right.
So in order, this process has a timeline on it, and in order to get it in the year 2020, the last time that you all will meet to as an organization to approve these projects will be around the 1st of December. Is that correct, Grant?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, so that's why we're moving forward at this time, because this is a lengthy process to get to. In order for us to get to December, there's several steps we have to go through.
You're correct, and again, all the steps you're taking tonight do not bind you to borrow money. It allows you to, and it opens the road to where we can go through the process to make it available to you.
Squire Blackman.
Again, Mr. Satterley had mentioned that it would increase our bond rating that we're borrowing from to a AA negative. Would it also impact our bond rating? Because I know the energy thing that we're working on would not affect our bond rating. Would this?
Borrowing for both purposes, the debt that you take on to do the energy project will have a rating of AA minus.
But after issuance of that, will it affect our bond rating moving forward? Will we have?
It only affects those things that are in the debt that you take on. If you go to you could come back into the bond pool for something else in 2 years, and we would get that rating then. Matter of fact, we hope that in a few years we'll have it raised to AA. We work on putting a little more money into it all the time, which helps raise that credit rating. And that's important at this post-COVID age. I was reading today, over 300 local governments have had their debt downgraded in the past month simply because the rating agencies are afraid of the unknown effects the virus will have on a lot of localities.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Grant Satterley. Thank you so much. You represent CAECO so well, and we're proud to be a member of CAECO. Thank you. And we'll be talking with you.
We'll be here if you need us.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Okay. By the way, might as well put on your agenda. The first public hearing will be October 1st at 4:30. That's the public hearing. We have to have 2 public hearings, and we have to hold one, and then DLG, I think, will hold the other. So the first public hearing will be October 1st at 4:30. And we'll get, Tamara will send out information on that. The next item on the agenda is approve a resolution for a commitment of Franklin County Fiscal Court to the Simon House to address the homeless needs of the community, and we've talked about that. The next item on the agenda is authorization to approve a resolution of the Franklin County Board of Health establishing public health tax rate in the year 2020 for Franklin County Public Health Taxing District. Judy's talked with everybody about that. We'll move on. The next reading is the second reading and approval of an ordinance relating to the 2020 Franklin County tax rates for real and personal property, aircraft, watercraft, non-commercial, and 2021 tax rates for motor vehicle and watercraft. Susan.
Yes, Court, thank you. As you know, we had a public hearing to receive public comment on the Finance Committee's proposed rate. The rate that's being proposed is not a rate increase. It's the same rate for real property that we have had for the last, this will be the third year in the row if adopted. As such, there's one point I'd like to make that I don't think was stated strongly enough or very clearly enough earlier, is that the personal property tax rates are tied directly to the calculation of the real property tax rates for the county. So the real property tax rate that's adopted influences the maximum rate that we can have for the personal property. The proposed real property tax rate of $1.87 per thousand would in fact generate a personal property rate that would be a decrease from the prior year. Again, this is a formula that's based a lot on the assessments and the evaluation of the assessments and how those relate from personal to real. So this is a little unusual situation. Well, it's a very unusual situation, but again, that's probably due to the strength and the assessed value of some of our tangible personal property that we have here in the county, i.e. the distilleries. So they would in fact have a rate decrease. That would be true for the rates across the board. We had provided the fiscal court with all the incremental options between the proposed rate and any other rate down to the compensating rate. So that being said, I would just remind the court that this rate will be an opportunity to raise additional revenue that is much needed, and it is really the only control opportunity you have for a revenue option in a very uncertain time of revenue streams for the local government. And it can, because of the assessment and the valuations and the growth there, it allows for additional revenue receipts with no change to the tax rate. And that, as the judge had pointed out earlier, that as an example, for a $100,000 property value home, that there would be no additional tax due unless they had some sort of increase in assessment. The other point I'd like to reiterate, and as a matter of public information, is that if you're over 65 or 65 or older, that you have an opportunity for a major discount on your tax bill for the first $39,300 in valuation. You get discounted. So, you know, if you're a $100,000 property owner, then you would only you would get $39,300 off of that, and that would be the amount that you'd be taxed on. So it's a significant discount that we offer in Franklin County. It amounts to actually over $300,000 a year, along with agricultural land use exemptions, which are equally valuable in discounts in our real property tax area. So I have Judge, to you for any other comments, questions?
Okay, let's go questions. Anybody have questions? Squire Booth? Squire Booth?
I see that, gosh. Our treasurer has told us at least twice that the tangible property tax rate will go down. But I believe that she said that the prevailing tax rate for property, real property, is the same, and we'll bring in more revenue because we have more property, real property, to be taxed. So is the tangible property going to match? Are we not going to have an increase in total revenue from the property taxes because of this aberration in the rates? Are we still going to have more revenue? That's just easy.
That's a valid question, Squire Booth. Budgeting and measuring a tangible property receipts is much more difficult because those assessments come out of the state revenue cabinet, and they are, the timing on those, as our clerk would tell you, as our fiscal court, our county clerk would tell you, is all over the board. And it's a really, it's a strange process. So the timing of those receipts is much less predictable. But as far as estimating that revenue on the distilled spirit side, again, the assessments, when the state get, they don't come out until November. So again, we are, we're out of sequence here for being able to make a best guess. So I would, my best guess would be that we would see some increase in the distilled spirits, and I did some calculation for that. It would not be the same amount of significant growth if the rate is, with the slower rate, but the initial assessment that we got on distilled spirits may very well be underestimated. And if that rate, if that assessed value comes in higher, then certainly that would impact our receipts. So yes and no. Yes, maybe some additional revenue, but no, it's difficult to gauge within a certain period of time.
Well, thank you for trying. Okay.
Is there anybody else? Okay, seeing none, let's move to the next item on the agenda, and that's the first reading of an amendment to ordinance number 2, 2020, relating to the budget for this fiscal year. Actually, for the fiscal year 2020, 2021. Susan?
Yes, Judge. This amendment will capture several items. Most significantly, I have informed the court about a tax refund that's due and has been requested and has been reconciled and is payable by amending the general fund budget with part of our prior year carryover. We can cover that occupational tax refund. In addition, the coroner had an insurance claim that times out within this period that more than exhausted his line item for repairs and maintenance on the vehicle. So we can amend in the insurance proceeds of that to provide him the means to repair the vehicle and preserve his standard budget line item for repairs and maintenance. The same thing is true for the insurance office. There was, or not the insurance, the sheriff's office. There was a claim that totaled the vehicle that we've already purchased now, that vehicle, but with the expectation that we were going to amend in insurance proceeds. So we're making that line whole to cover that expenditure for replacing that vehicle with insurance proceeds, as well as amending in the prior year carryover from our insurance fund that we received in insurance proceeds in the prior fiscal year to cover the repairs on the apparatus that was damaged there. So that's the purpose of this amendment.
Questions? Squire Blackburn.
Yeah, did we have 2 separate claims or proceeds for the pumper truck in separate years?
That is a good question, Squire Blackburn. In fact, there was a supplemental proceeds on the truck, on the repair of the truck. So the amount of the prior year carryover was reduced by the amount of that additional the proceeds that came in this fiscal year instead of the prior fiscal year. So that just makes up the difference for the overall total of what we need to repair the vehicle and spend on the vehicle.
So
It
there
wasn't
were,
two separate claims. No, it was a supplemental claim.
okay. So,
Like they make estimates and then it costs more or something like that. And they send us another check.
I understand. So for the occupational tax, the credits that were they carried over from the books, or were they unforeseen?
It is not unusual for corporations to have amounts that they carry over from year to year with anticipation of applying it to the next year's tax liability. But 2019 was a rather significant year for tax code changes and impacts, and in fact the corporate recipients of these refunds have been in communication with the tax office for a long period of time, trying to reconcile what the final amount was and what their ultimate liability would be, and whether or not they would request the refund or just let it continue to carry. So this is pretty much a final reconciliation with exhaustive examination by two tax administrators.
So they were proceeds that we received, and we
that is correct.
Knew that there were more and they weren't spent.
That ultimately, when they filed their taxes, that they did not have the liability that they had initially estimated. That is correct.
So okay. Also, I remember on the sheriff's vehicle. If I remember correctly, the insurance proceeds, they were actually a little less than the cost of the vehicle. And so we're just increasing the expenditure by that insurance proceeds and not by the extra. I think he may have had that in his budget.
I do recall that conversation. I did not have a source of revenue to cover that at this point. If the sheriff, writes a check to fiscal court, then we will have that additional money. There's a lot yet to be sorted out, I'm sure, before the end of the calendar year with the sheriff's office and his budget. But as far as the additional amount to cover the vehicle, have we already paid? We've already paid that, haven't we, Tambra? We've already paid the full amount.
I know it was very little.
Additional equipment. So I just did it for the amount of the insurance proceeds at this point.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, are there any other questions? Let's move then to the next item, authorization to approve a resolution authorizing the filing of an application for grant funds with the Kentucky American Water Program for the Franklin County Fire Department. Ann, I guess you've worked on that, and Chief, you all want to respond to what we're applying for?
I can start out. Good evening, everyone. This grant program with Kentucky American Water is one that we've been able to utilize for several years now. And it's a $500 per year grant to the fire department. And this year they've chosen to use that grant for 2 wireless headsets to further their communications capabilities. And if you have any questions on that equipment, I'm sure the chief or the assistant chief would be glad to answer.
Chief Brewer or Chief Hutchison, do you have any comments?
Chief Brewer, if you'd like to go ahead and comment on that since you're handling that grant.
Are the workers in the field going to wear those headsets? Is that the gist of it?
Chief, can you answer that? Chief Hutchison?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Judge. Yes, we outfit those that are wireless to our portable radios, and we've outfitted, this will be the last apparatus not to have one to be completed. And they wear those on the scene while they're pumping. You've actually seen me wear them in physical court meetings, Zoom wise, but they reduce the the noise level, and very effective.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for Chief or Ann on this grant? Ann, we appreciate your work on it, and I know the chief does, and we also appreciate Kentucky American Water for continuing this grant. Thank you to them. The next item on the agenda is authorization to approve promotions. Chief Hutcherson or Chief Brewer, would you explain your promotions?
Thank you, Judge. Yes, we've had a resignation of a 17-year plus captain, Barry Holloway. We're going to miss him, wish him the best in the future. But that leads to an open captain's spot. And that promotion would lead to an open engineer slot. And we are recommending the promotions of Brandon Mitchell and Lucas Cummins. Brandon Mitchell to captain and Lucas Cummins to engineer from the approved January 2020 established promotional list.
Very good. Thank you, Chief. Any questions on the promotions? All right. Squire Muller's got a question. Sorry.
Thank you, Judge, and thank you, Chief. Chief, I meant to call you earlier on this, and I apologize for not doing it. As far as the fire department, is there any reason or that we could postpone the promotion just because we're in the middle of the COVID crisis? I mean, is that feasible to ask? I don't know, something about, giving promotions and things during this time.
I appreciate your question. The slot will be open. Someone will have to step into those slots regardless. And I think it's only fair to pay them for the jobs that they will be doing. My opinion.
Okay. That makes sense. I didn't realize there was kind of, okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, and it doesn't affect the budget. It's all money still in the budget, so it doesn't affect the budget. Thanks, Chief, for your explanation. The next item, Chief, is yours. It's authorization to hire a firefighter.
Sir, with the resignation of Holloway and the promotion of the other two, it'll leave a open firefighter slot. So we're recommending the individual you see on the agenda before you to be hired. Questions? Yes, sir.
Squire Blackburn.
I am so happy to see this applicant's driving record. We've had some good ones in the past. This is great. This is great.
Thank you, Squire. They're working out, so we're appreciative to have this individual on the agenda. We'll think he will make a great hire.
Okay, Squire Muller.
Thank you, Judge. Hey, Chief, when will you be doing testing again? I know we've been hiring and things have been going well, thank goodness, but when is the next round that you'll get applicants in there?
Great question, Squire. You must have some kind of premonition because we have 2 left on the hiring list. We'll actually be advertising to start that process again, probably most likely this weekend. The existing list will last for 1 year, which will make it May something or another, but we need to move forward to ensure that we have a hiring list available.
All right, thanks a lot, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Okay, are there any other questions? Seeing none, the next item on the agenda is authorization to receive the treasurer's report. Ms. Susan?
As always, you receive a copy of the current receipts and expenditures at the point in time of the court packet going out. It's constant booking. We are approaching the end of our first quarter. And as you know, we're typically in the hole in that first quarter because our property tax receipts haven't started to come in. So we're in a relatively the same position that we're typical for this year, with the exception of the COVID and project receipts and expenditures in that area. And unless there's any specific questions, I won't belabor. Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. I've got a question in regard to page 2 on the expense side. It would be line item 015035 304. It has to do with the Board of Assessment, the appeals section on the per diem. Is it sort of typical at this point to have 50% of the budgetary line item expended with only a quarter of the year gone? I'm just not sure if
Yes.
that's a typical thing so
Yeah.
early.
Yes, there are certain line item expenditures that occur 100% upfront or
Sure,
in
get it like-
advance, or just the timing, based
Right.
on events. So yes, you were correct.
Yeah,
Good
I just
observation.
I wasn't sure about that. I know things like workers' comp and other things we pay well in advance. You pay at the beginning of the year, basically 98, 99% of it. So I just wasn't sure if this was one of those things that was like that. I also have a question about the jail specialty equipment that is on page 8, and that's 035101-711. It's 42% expended. My question is that the bleach maker? Is that what that piece of specialty equipment is? And if it, whether it is or isn't, I have some questions about that. If we've been able to, one of the things that the jailer had talked to us about, which I think we all thought was a great thing, is they were going to be able to manufacture bleach there in the jail and then share that across county government. So I just wanted to see how we were doing with that, how much bleach we'd been making and sharing across, because certainly in these times that we're in, we're needing that type of commodity to be used everywhere across county government, and not just us, others too. So just wanted to ask about that. And then I've got, I think that's the other question I had. Thank you.
Is Jailer Bonner on? Jailer Bonner, are you on?
No, Judge. No one from the jail.
Okay,
box with
all
us.
right. Well, I will, Tambra, if you would send Jailer Bonner's, Squire Sebastian's question for Jailer Bonner to respond back. We'll have him respond to you.
Sure.
And maybe he can speak publicly the next time.
Sure,
Okay?
that's fantastic. I just think that's one of the things we talked about earlier about what a great thing this would be, especially right now, because there's such a high demand for this type of commodity to be used across the county. So it'd be great to see how we're putting that into place for everybody to use. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think we're now on other business.
Bills.
I'm sorry, bills. I'm sorry, Susan, payment of bills. Or Tambra, sorry. Any questions? Oh, Squire Sebastian, sorry, I'm
Sure.
sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Judge. Appreciate that. Under tab 14, there's something in there attributed to the jail for air purifier and a body scanner license and inmate eyeglasses. Is there any reason the commissary account is not covering these things? Because they strike me as things that are for the health and safety and protection of inmates, rather than, I think Jailer Bonta has spoken, and before him, Jailer Rogers spoke a number of times about food being things that certainly, food and housing, certainly something that the county would pay for. But if they were things for the health, protection, and safety of inmates, they would be something that would come out of the commissary account. And air purifier there, certainly in the intake area where only the inmates are, that would seem to be something for their safety and protection. Body scanner is certainly something for their protection, and inmate eyeglasses determines that they are for the inmates. So I was just wondering about that. And then I had one more question, but I just wondered if anybody knew about that.
We don't know. If he's not on, I mean, that's his issue. We'll have him respond to that. We'll have him send you an email or give you a holler.
Okay, can I ask my other question, or would you like
Absolutely.
me to?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish up. Yes.
Okay. The other question I had in the recurring bills, on page 2 of that, there's some things in there for like ballpark lights, and these are things at the park, truck pull lights and Carter House lights. Since we're not having games and we didn't have the fair, and we're not renting the Carter House, it's almost $1,000 worth of bills we're paying for lighting for those facilities. Is there a reason that they're on that much when there are no games, no fair, and no rental of facilities? Just a general question, because that could be something that the Energy Committee knows more about, and I don't, because I'm not on it. Thank you in advance, everybody.
Okay, Charlie Lewis, can you respond to that question?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. We are renting the Carter House and some of the facilities right now, so those are getting some use. It is limited. Parking lot lights and things of that nature are off. At the softball complex, the maintenance shop, they are maintaining those facilities. So they're using that building, the maintenance area and the power in that area. So I'm sure there's some fees associated there. But I'll be happy to look into it more detailed to see if there are some things that are being used, excuse me, that we're just not aware of, that are left on by or whatever, or running at times when they shouldn't be. So, but some of this stuff is yes being used.
Okay. Let's go now to, I'm sorry, Squire Blackburn, I didn't see you. Sorry.
Yeah, I noticed on, we buy diesel fuel and we buy it from the same vendor. And I noticed that one of our departments is getting it a lot cheaper than another department. Is that an abnormality, or is that just the way it works? Or
Which departments are you
Wait,
speaking of?
be specific.
okay, the park department bought 293 gallons at $823. That's $2.81 a gallon. The road department, let's find it here. They bought it at $1.81 a gallon in the same month. So I didn't know if there was that big of a swing or if they got a deal because they used more. I was hoping we could all get it at the road department's cost.
Yeah, sometimes it is, depends on the quantity that you buy. And also, the jail purchases the diesel for their incinerator. And because they buy such a small quantity, they actually are assessed a delivery fee.
Is it
off? It's probably off-road versus on-road fuel.
That's what I was thinking as well.
Squire Moore, you raised your hand. Did you want to comment?
That's what I was trying to say, is it's the difference is off-road and on-road fuel. I don't think county vehicles can run red fuel even on the road, even though they're government. I don't believe they can.
That answers my question. Thank you.
We've got the experts on that. Thank you, Squire Moore, Squire Sebastian. You all deal with that all the time. Good question, Squire Blackburn, because we sure need to look into it if it is an issue. Okay, let's get it now into other business. Do we have any other business? Anybody want to speak about other business? Squire Moore.
I don't, but I will. I guess Rick Sparks is still on here.
I think so.
Rick, we've got
I'm still painfully hanging on. Yes,
yeah,
I'm here.
We've got the so-called hotel that burned on 421 North that we've not been able to do anything with for 2 years. Where are we on that?
What hotel?
It looks like a hotel. It's in the S curves out on 421. Billy Joe, I think, or Robert Hewitt have talked to you about it. We've had been a couple of years trying to get this thing condemned, and the people are out of state, out of the country. We don't know where they are. We need to get something done on it.
I'm not in a situation to talk about prosecutorial matters right now regarding that, but we have struggled with service on individuals who are out of state owners. I didn't know what the hotel part you were talking about.
Well, that's just.
But it's a common problem on those nuisance cases for service, etc. When individuals are owned out of state or owned by banks or owned by corporate entities. There's the other issue because their ordinance in some situations allows the county to do self-help, go in there and do something about it. And that's all I can say on that matter while that's not been served on anybody yet.
Okay, so it's ongoing. Then I have another issue. There's a farmer out on Lucas Lane that's having trouble getting rock to his property. He keeps getting stopped by a deputy or DOT saying that he can't run his truck on Lucas Lane. And the state statute actually says that you can't run heavy equipment on the road, but a truck, a motor truck, or a motorized semi truck and trailer with legal tags can run on a county road without permission from the county judge or the county engineer. So I don't understand why this individual's having such a problem.
I'd ask him to contact an attorney if he's getting cited to address that traffic matter. I'm not going to give him advice on a traffic violation if he's been cited.
I don't know that he's been cited, but he's sure been harassed.
Well, then I think you ought to probably get a criminal defense attorney if he's running into trouble with the law. I can't give him advice on that, Lambert.
Okay.
Squire Moore.
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if you're speaking of the same individual that contacted me, but
I am.
Well, it's my understanding. I mean, I called the sheriff and spoke to him. It's my understanding that, and I even spoke to the county road supervisor. It's my understanding as long as it's an agriculture type vehicle, that gentleman was, I believe, even got a copy of the ordinance. That gentleman he should not be getting stopped, or his people going to his house for agriculture use should not be getting stopped. Yeah, so we gave him all that information. I thought he was taking care of. I hadn't heard back from him since he called and thanked me. So,
Is he being
but
cited?
if John's still on, John can.
He has been. The situation is this: you can go out here and buy a brand new semi, and if a DOT wants to find something wrong with that semi, he will, and he'll find something, and that's what they did. They called the Department of Transportation guy out there to go over his truck with a fine-tooth comb, and yes, they're going to find some kind of a violation.
Well, now, can I ask you why fiscal court's getting involved in matters of law enforcement with DOT and stuff like that?
Because
are you going to be taken up for the drug dealers now because they got a certain amount of drugs on?
No, sir, that's your job, Counselor.
I know that's exactly right.
Because the deputy.
I think this is exceeding the role of the political function of fiscal court.
Well, no, it's not, but it's because the deputy is using what he deems as he's saying that he has to have permission from the county judge or the county engineer to drive on that road, and that's just not
I just think I think you're getting far afield on political matters versus law enforcement matters, and the two should never mix. I'll just let it go like that.
I sent him the information that I sent him was through the sheriff's department, through the sheriff. So
okay.
Well, hopefully it's taken care of. But
I mean, if he gets cited, we'll deal with it, and if they're wrong, we deal with that all the time. But I just that's you're mixing oil and water, guys. I don't want to go down this road.
Okay, thank you.
Squire Sebastian, sorry you've had your hand up a while. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Judge. I just wanted to take a moment to recognize the life of a tremendous public servant who's no longer with us.
If you don't mind,
Shirley served as the court clerk.
Would you mind holding, because I'm going to bring that up as we go into our next meeting. Thank you. Into voting session. Okay.
Sure.
Squire Muller.
Judge, can I do a committee update right now, or do you want me to wait?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Can I do a committee meeting update, or would you like me to wait?
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So bring a little positive news. I guess a couple of weeks ago we had a park committee meeting. We've been meeting off and on, trying to figure things out during COVID. I don't know, maybe 3-4 months ago, Squire Tracy had a grand idea about doing a drive-in at Lakeview Park. We talked with Charlie Lewis about it, emergency management, the judge, everybody. So I think we're finally a go. I got a call today about a really nice sponsorship that will hopefully cover most of the costs. So this will be a cost-free to the citizens of Franklin County. I believe Charlie can speak a little bit on. He met with the movie company, and I think we're probably going to be limited to about 100 cars. The date we're looking at is October 16th. Is that right, Judge? I think that was the date.
Yeah, we're going to have a park meeting next week to finalize all this. If you want to wait and make that announcement on our October 1st meeting, we'll have hopefully the committee will have all the details.
Okay, I was just trying to get the word out because the sponsor wanted as much marketing time as they could get. So that's
go ahead, go right ahead. If you
but I believe, or maybe Tambra, could you tell me, wasn't that the date we talked about?
Yes, October 16th was the date we talked about.
So I just wanted to bring some happy news to these crazy times we're having right now. So we're looking forward to it, and we'll get everybody up to speed on that soon.
Okay, good deal. Any other constitutional officers or department heads that need to speak? Squire Sebastian, did you need to say something?
Yeah, Judge, I just wanted to see if you had anything for us outside of what we've heard tonight.
I'm hoping that Robert Hewitt's on and he may have something to announce, but I don't know where Robert Hewitt is. Robert Hewitt, are you on?
Yes, sir.
Weren't you going to give a report on something that tonight?
Yes. Are you ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
City and county staff have been successful in the first level of renegotiating the electrical inspector contract between the city and the county. Simultaneously, we have also come to an agreement on the proposed electrical inspection fees. We are doing all this in anticipation of the hiring of a new electrical inspector, interviews of which are scheduled for next Thursday. My plan is to present the amended electrical agreement with the city to the county attorney for his review and begin the legal process through that in anticipation of an October 1st presentation to the fiscal court.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert. Get that quickly, not later, sir.
I will send it as soon as this meeting is over.
Because sometimes those come through several iterations once we get them in hand.
Yes, I believe the court will find that the city and county are working very well together in the best interest of all involved, and that this would be favorable to all parties. And I truly hope that the court will be pleased.
Thank you, Robert. Anything else? Okay, seeing none, let's pull up our agenda for the vote meeting, if everybody would. And this is the Franklin County Fiscal Court voting meeting for September the 15th, 2020. And before we get started, Squire Sebastian brought this up, but I want to say that the Franklin County Fiscal Court has lost a dear family member. And she's worked here for a number of years. She had the fiscal court clerk's job. I go back all the way back to the city when I was mayor. She took over the clerk's job with the city. We worked together there, and I was fortunate to work with her for a number of years here as the clerk, and that's Shirley Brown. Shirley Brown died a few days ago, and we wish her family and all the friends that know Shirley. We know how much you thought about her. We do too. Tambra every day says, this is the way Shirley did things. And so we know that when Shirley did something, it was always right. So before we get started, before I even call the court to order, I'd like to take a moment of silence in memory of our dear, dear friend, Shirley Brown. and prayers to the family of Shirley Brown. So let's take this moment of silence, please. Thank you, Shirley. I know that you are in a great place, and we miss you and love you. And thank you for all that you've done for all of us here at the Franklin County Fiscal Court. You've been a dream. Thank you so much. Okay, with that said, clerk, call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Here.
Squire Blackburn,
Here.
Squire Muller,
Present.
Squire Tracy,
Here.
Squire Booth,
Present.
Squire Moore,
Here.
Judge Wells.
Here, would you please stand for the pledge? And Squire Moore, you've got the flag. Will you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
United
States of America,
States of America.
and to the
The
republic
republic for which
it
it
stands,
stands.
one nation,
One nation,
under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and
with
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Thank you.
Try to slow it down a little bit, Judge.
There you go. You did great. You did great. Okay, the first item on the agenda is authorization for approval of the minutes from our regular meeting of August 27th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
I'll vote yes. I went back to the court packet online here on my computer and was able to read them finally. Thank you very much.
you're welcome. Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, next item is authorization for approval of minutes from our public tax hearing of September the 8th, 2020.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
I was not present for that meeting. I don't feel like I can vote on it. So,
Robert's Rules of Orders, you can vote on them.
all right. Yes.
Okay. Squire Moore,
Present.
Judge Wells,
Yes. Okay, the next reading, no, the next item is first reading of the ordinance approving a lease for the financing of a project, providing for the payment and security of the lease, creating a sinking fund, which I'm going to take out. We are not doing that. And authorizing the execution of various documents related to such lease. The second reading will be October 1st, and the public will be here. The public hearing will be on October the 1st as well at 4:30. That's the first reading. The next item is authorization to approve a resolution approving an interlocal cooperative agreement between the County of Franklin, Kentucky, and other parties thereto regarding the Kentucky Association of Counties Interlocal Finance Corporation.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. The next item is authorization to approve a resolution for a commitment of Franklin County Fiscal Court to the Simon House to address the homeless needs of the community. And the details will be worked out later, but this is a commitment that we would like to work with them on this project.
So moved.
Okay. Thank you, Squire Booth. Is there a second? I'll second it. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Having really not had the benefit of any information other than about 6 lines in the status document that we got tonight, I don't feel like I have enough information. Had a hard time kind of seeing the slides that were presented tonight. So I would really like to see this come back before the court. after we've had the opportunity to see the information a little bit better. So if I'm asked to vote on it right now, with those caveats, I'm going to have to vote no.
Well, we spent almost over an hour on it with them speaking. What is it you would like? Do you want something do you want their presentations in writing, or what is it you would like?
Yes, I think the presentation was presented tonight. It was the first that I had, at least I can speak for me. It's the first I had seen of it. And it's very difficult sometimes to review all of those documents and really have time to think through the budgets and other things that are critical in making a long-term decision like this. Just speaking for me.
I got you. I mean, if there's a chance that we can continue to keep it as opposed to voting it down, I mean, I'd much rather do that. Continue on.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes, as a resolution for a commitment to help the Simon House address it without any tangible things that we're held to right now. I know we're just in the planning stage, and it's not holding us to anything now, but just committing to helping, and I'm a yes.
Okay.
Squire Muller.
I look forward to learning more about it, and this looks like just a commitment to keep the conversation going. So I'm yes.
Squire Tracy.
Just quick question. The line item, the end item that we're voting on, this approves the resolution, so it takes the steps. We're into the agreement that was presented to us in our booklet. Is that correct? So this isn't like the start of the negotiation. It's
a commitment. Yeah.
It's a commitment.
Correct.
Yes.
So this is not the start of a conversation. This is a commitment that this property will be turned over.
It is.
Okay.
And the $100,000. It mentions that
if
committing us
If
to
Tracy, you asked for some information. I haven't seen any of that information you asked for.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. And I'm not saying I'm against this. What I'm against is having to feel like a detective trying to figure everything out. So I would like the information that I requested. And that's where I'm at. So unfortunately, again, I'm not per saying that I am against it, but unfortunately I just have to vote no because the lack of information that we were provided to study.
Squire Booth.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
I think we need more information. I'm a no.
Judge Wells.
Yes. So so what happened? What was the vote?
4-3, it passed.
Okay. So let me make sure that we get all the information. I will make sure that every one of you receives the documents that were presented tonight. If you have questions, Squire Tracy, you asked them about the questions. Squire Moore, did you have some specific questions that you wanted answered other than their presentation?
Well, it's just a whole lot to take in, Judge. I'm a hard no on this as is. So,
well, when you say as is there something that you need to change your vote? I don't know.
I mean, it passed. I have a lot of concerns about this. When we had this property sold to the city, and now they're wanting us to pay for it to be used, not by the city, but it's just a mess. Looks like to me, and I'm not prepared to give my questions right now. So I guess we'll see how it plays out.
Okay.
I just forwarded the email Ms. Hecker sent me earlier, and I just forwarded it to you all. So you all should have it in your inbox now. And I don't mind to make you hard copies while you're here if you want to take with you.
Sure.
Okay.
Can I ask Mr. Sparks a question?
Sure.
So, Rick, help me out here because I don't know if I voted on the right thing. I mean, is this kind of locking us into the whole presentation? Because that's kind of not what I read it as.
No, sir, this is a non-binding resolution with about 4 contingencies. I draw the court's attention to the very bottom line. You're resolving to come to mutually agreeable terms. Well, if you can't, well, then it doesn't count. To contribute amount not to exceed $100,000. So you contribute a dollar. You've satisfied that term. I think, frankly, that there's a perspective on it, and I understand the perspective on it, that it's more binding. And it is a bigger thing than it really is. It's a resolution in support of pursuing negotiations for a lease for an amount that's not set, so it can't be enforced, and that the court would assist with the shelter at a future time. Somewhere between 1 cent and $100,000 is all it says. So I mean, take it for the thing that it is. It's really just a resolution to move forward in further discussions.
That's what I thought. Thank you for clarification.
Can I ask a question? Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Because this document notes property being at West Main Street, so we have just voted to lease property to someone that we don't even own. And it pledges to lease 231 West Main Street to the Simon House, which I meant to point that out when I was commenting, but you know, it's problematic in that we have 5 sentences here to review, and it's really tough. And I think Squire Tracy used an apt term. You know, we come to court meetings and a lot of times we're having to play that role of detective and ask questions at the meeting because these things move so quickly in front of us. And I don't think anyone is against addressing homelessness. I don't think that's what anybody said tonight. Everybody would like to see that eradicated, not only in our community, but across the nation. However, when we get something like this that is very loose, and I forget the term that rolled off Counselor Sparks' tongue, but at this point, it really is fairly loose. So it's really difficult. I don't want to bind the court to something that I don't have a lot of detail on. That's the only caveat that I meant to say with my vote. And again, we've talked about leasing property that we don't even own because we don't have property 231 West Main.
Squire, if I can qualify that, there is that's an interesting address on that corner. Sometimes it's listed as the road. I guess it's Main Street. And sometimes it's listed as Glenn's Creek, but it is that corner property across from the cemetery.
Mm-hmm. Well, we probably should clean it up because it says West Main and it doesn't say East.
Yes, ma'am.
So just you know.
We have, Rick and Counselor Sparks and I have had this conversation a few times because we've had past resolutions with different addresses. However, because it referenced the county building and there were known problems with that it was okay. And so if we could change east to
from west to east.
Yeah, west to east. So.
It accurately describes the location to 231, though, I think, of East Main.
Right.
But I just want to assure the court it is non-binding to that extent. You're not obligating it because the details still remain vague as to the lease terms.
Okay. I mean, you're going to get the information. If you want to come back up and bring it up for another vote, that's fine.
Well, Judge, there will be another vote in a future term if you choose to go to that route, because you're going to have to establish the mechanisms for lease, the amount of lease per month, what services are going to be provided, what in-kind services, et cetera. It's unenforceable right now. It's an agreement to agree.
Yeah. It's an agreement basically to talk, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. I appreciate your input. Okay. I think we can move on to the next one. That's an authorization to approve a resolution of the Franklin County Board of Health establishing a public health tax rate in the year of 2020 for Franklin County Health Taxing District, and that rate will remain, the recommending will remain the same.
I so move.
Squire Booth.
Second.
Squire Moore. Discussion, call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire
Somebody's phone.
That'll cost you $50.
Yeah.
Who
Squire
said yes?
Booth.
Squire Booth, you're up on the vote.
Said it yes. Okay.
She said yes. Okay.
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells,
Yes. Next item is second reading and approval of an ordinance relating to the 2020 Franklin County tax rates for real and personal property, aircraft, watercraft, non-commercial, and 2021 tax rates for motor vehicle and watercraft.
I so move.
Squire Booth. Thank you.
I'll second.
Second, Squire Sebastian. All right. Discussion. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
I have great trepidation in going forward, but we're not raising the rate. I know there's a lot of property owners that need some relief, especially in these times. But with our rising pension costs and this being our only means of real revenue, I'm a yes.
Squire Muller,
You know, I've had, I don't know how many business owners reach out to me and they're barely making it. You know, I mean, I think everybody's down. This pandemic's beating everybody down. I know PVA's done a really good job of reassessing some values. There'll be some money there. Long story short, I'd like to take the lesser rate, so I'm a no.
Squire Tracy,
I'd like to thank everyone who has reached out to me to share their thoughts on this. I spoke to a local business owner of over 30 plus years, and he's down over 75%. With the hardships and struggles that the residents and small businesses of Frankfurt and Franklin County have encountered and continue to experience due to the COVID-19 pandemic, I believe that we need to do everything in our power to help ease the pain or burden during this difficult time. So with that being said, I vote no.
Squire Booth,
Wow. I move that we do this, so I will vote yes.
okay. Squire Moore,
I would much prefer if we would take a lower rate, but we don't know what's going to come in from this COVID situation, really puts us in a bad seat. And so I feel like I have to vote yes on this.
Judge Wells,
And I appreciate the magistrates or the squires saying that they've talked to local businesses, and all of us have. And I understand the hardship. And so part of understanding the hardship is we have a hardship too. So it's kind of the best of both worlds that we can say, we're not going to raise your taxes. And because we're not, we're also, because of growth and because of the other assessments that we can pay for what our needs are too. So it's the best of both worlds. We're not raising taxes for third year in a row. And Squire Moore, you and I have been on for a long time, and that is the first time
it's a good record
in history that we've been able to keep the tax rate the same for 3 years in a row. So with that said, I vote yes. The next item on the agenda is the first reading of an amendment to ordinance number 2, 2020, relating to the budget for the fiscal year 2020, 2021. The second reading will be October the 1st. The next item on the agenda is authorization to approve a resolution authorizing the filing of an application for grant funds with the Kentucky American Water Program for the Franklin County Fire Department.
So
moved. Second.
Squire Tracy, and seconded by Squire Blackburn. Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization to promote Brandon Mitchell from engineer to captain.
So moved. Second.
Okay, did you get that?
Who made the
Who,
motion?
who made the motion?
Scotty.
Tracy, okay. Okay, call the
Okay.
roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, the next item is authorization to promote Lucas Cummins from firefighter to engineer.
So move.
Second.
Did you get that?
Tracy and Blackburn.
Okay, call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, the next item is authorization to hire Justin Howard as a firefighter.
I would love to make that. Yes.
Okay,
I'll
Second.
second.
seconded by Squire Blackburn. All right,
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
And I don't want to jinx him, but I'm glad we're hiring a guy with a perfect driving record. I mean, yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
yes. And before we go on to the next one, I want to say this, that most all of this came about because a longtime servant on our fire department, Barry Holloway, is resigning, and I had Barry in school. And as a matter of fact, he was quite an athlete in school. So Barry's a good person, and I wish him the best in his retirement. And thank you for your service to Franklin County, Barry Holloway. The next item is authorization to receive the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second.
Get that? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. The next item is payment of bills. Is there a motion to deny any payment of the bills? Seeing none, let the record reflect the bills are ordered to be paid. The last item is authorization to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Everybody be safe. Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Everybody, please wear your mask and be safe. God bless. Thank you for watching. We're adjourned.